Chapter 209. The moment Wang Yu rolled into the resurrection point, the people from Gokura Kijodo came up from behind and surrounded the warrior camp. Damn it, just a little bit more. One Flower, One World looked at everyone with regret and said gloomily. He did not expect Wang Yu to be so vigilant that he did not even notice the enemies behind him. You're not being honest. Wang Yu extended his index finger and waved it in front of One Flower, One World's eyes. Didn't we agree on a one-on-one? One Flower, One World snorted. I have so many people. Why should I fight you one-on-one? That makes sense, but it's useless with so many people. They can't kill me even if I'm here. Wang Yu said with a smile. One Flower, One World sneered. Hee, you're alone, and we have thousands of people. If we take turns to block you, I don't believe you can get out. From now on, don't play this game anymore. How arrogant. Wang Yu was slightly stunned. He said to One Flower, One World, someone once said the same thing. He's no longer in this city. Try it if you don't believe me. As he said that, One Flower, One World gave an order. The shield warriors from Gokura Kijodo stood in rows, raised their shields, and erected them at the front of the formation. If the players did not attack the guards first, the guards would not be able to harm them. Moreover, the shield warrior was the class with the highest defense in Rebirth. When hundreds of shield warriors raised their shields, even the guards would not be able to break through the formation in a short amount of time due to the system's settings. Wang Yu looked around at everyone and leaped up. He stepped on the wall and was about to go up to the roof. Today, the players from Gokura Kijodo were at a disadvantage on the roof, so they were very cautious about this move. Just as Wang Yu jumped up, the archers from Gokura Kijodo shot at the roof. Within the resurrection point, Wang Yu would not be harmed. However, the roof was not within the range of the resurrection point. Seeing this, Wang Yu was shocked and hurriedly turned back. Wang Yu's original intention was to leave through the roof, but who knew that the people from Gokura Kijodo were already prepared. The roofs on both sides weren't within the safe zone, and there were hundreds of archers from Gokura Kijodo. If they were to shoot 10,000 arrows at the same time, even Superman would be shot into the wall. Therefore, only the area above the resurrection point could ensure that he wouldn't die. In other words, if Wang Yu wanted to escape, he would have to jump onto the city wall. A city wall was not like an ordinary house. Yu Huiqing's walls were designed in medieval Europe. The walls were at least 15 to 16 meters tall. Even if Wang Yu used all of his movement skills, he would only be able to fly up to a height of around 10 meters. Moreover, due to the change in force midway, Wang Yu's initial point of force had disappeared, and his body was gradually falling. In midair, Wang Yu gritted his teeth and used Dusk Leap, instantly rising another 5 meters. He was still 8 to 9 meters away from the top of the city wall. At this moment, 2 long swords suddenly appeared in Wang Yu's hands. Wang Yu stabbed one of the swords into the crack of the wall, then flipped his body and stood on it. Then he stabbed the sword in his other hand and flipped himself up again. At the same time, he activated Cloud Grasp and pulled the first sword up. After repeating this a few times, Wang Yu stepped on the 2 swords and jumped onto the top of the wall under the watchful eyes of the crowd. What is this? The people from Gokura Kijodo were on the verge of tears. What kind of freaks are Chuanjin? Not only can they fly and jump, but there's also someone who can perform acrobatics. How can they live? Just you wait. Wang Yu, who had jumped onto the top of the wall, waved his fist and glared at One Flower, One World. Then, he turned around and left. One Flower, One World was scared out of his wits, especially after seeing Wang Yu's trick. He suddenly felt that he didn't feel the slightest sense of security, even though he was protected by thousands of people. Chase after him. Don't let him come back. One Flower, One World was terrified. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to trap Wang Yu in the martial arts dojo. The dojo had a roof, and Wang Yu couldn't fly out. This way, he would be completely safe. Everyone received the order to leave a few dozen people to protect One Flower, One World, while the rest scattered again to search for Wang Yu in the city. Less than 5 minutes after the people from Gokura Kijodo dispersed, One Flower, One World heard that terrifying voice again. Pull him out for me. I'm willing to serve the brave warrior. Oh my God, With a flash of white light, one flower, one world died again. This time, one flower, one world didn't die in vain. His clothes were dropped by Wang Yu. One flower, one world shrank at the resurrection point naked, watching as Wang Yu killed a path of blood and ran away under the encirclement of his own people. One flower, one world shrank at the resurrection point, not saying a word. Fear and humiliation crept into his heart. At this moment, he finally understood why Blood Red wore flag. As the guild leader of one of the top 10 major guilds on the national server, had a face full of fear when Xuanzhen was mentioned at this moment, he also understood why Blood Red wore flag would rather be looked down upon and would rather their own brothers be wronged than provoke Xuanzhen. At this moment, he completely understood why the core members of Blood Red War Flag had cold smiles on their faces at that time. Although those Cheese were hard to deal with, they were still normal people after all, and could only do disgusting things in the dark. And at this moment, this guy was more than 180 times more terrifying than everyone in Xuanzhen combined. A few dozen people couldn't beat him, and a few thousand people couldn't stop him. He came and went without a trace. And this guy had the ability to turn his target into a blank slate before he was caught. You don't know anything about the terror of Xuanzhen. One flower, one world once again remembered what Blood Red War Flag had warned it before. Could this be the scariest thing about Xuanzhen? One flower, one world was lost in thought. On the airship heading to Fanluo City, everyone in Xuanzhen sucked in a breath of cold air after hearing Wuji's plan, sighing at Wuji's viciousness. Only Baiming Yuyu was extremely excited. Boss Wuji, can we really succeed? Out of everyone in Xuanzhen, Baiming Yuyu's hatred for Pure Land of ultimate bliss was the deepest. Thinking back to when he was also a guild leader, it was this Pure Land of ultimate bliss that caused him to lose everything and become like a stray dog. Now that he heard that he could completely destroy Pure Land of ultimate bliss, Baiming Yuyu was so excited that tears welled up in his eyes. Wuji smiled and said, "Of course. Everyone in Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss is currently going around in circles with Iron Ox, and they won't be able to leave you Huicheng for a while. If we don't have any obstructions, we can definitely settle this before they return. But they have a few thousand people. Can old cow do it?" Baiming Yuyu asked worriedly. Baiming Yuyu was a veteran player, and she had never heard of anyone who could face the encirclement of a few thousand people alone. Hearing this, Mingdu walked over with a smile. He pointed at Yang Na beside him and asked Baiming Yuyu, "Is this lady beautiful?" "Beautiful." Baiming Yuyu glanced at the crossbow that Yang Na was aiming at her and nodded hurriedly. Chapter 210. Lunar New Year's Eve was supposed to be a day for families to reunite and watch the Spring Festival Gala. However, none of Yu Huicheng's players sat in front of the TV because they knew that there were more exciting programs in the game. The street at the Resurrection Point was filled with people. Not only were there Gokuraku Jodo's members, but there were also other Yu Huicheng's players. The Gokuraku Jodo's members had been causing trouble in Yu Huicheng for the entire night. They blocked the Resurrection Point and surrounded the teleportation point. The normal lives of the Yu Huicheng's players were basically disrupted. As Yu Huicheng's first guild was being hunted down, and the other two major guilds didn't seem to interfere, the players didn't dare to voice their anger towards the Gokuraku Jodo. Therefore, when the players heard that the Gokuraku Jodo's boss had been killed several times and that his clothes had been dropped, they were extremely excited and ran over to watch the commotion. In an instant, the entire street was filled with people. The Gokuraku Jodo's 2,000 members seemed so weak in the sea of people. Some of the players who had just come online were shocked when they saw the scene. They quickly asked what was happening. Therefore, the players told them the Gokuraku Jodo is fighting with someone and is blocked at the Resurrection Point. F***CK, who's so awesome? They can even block the Gokuraku Jodo's way to move unhindered? Now, the only guild that could completely suppress the Gokuraku Jodo in terms of numbers could only be the legendary to move unhindered. Where? It's Xuanzhen. F***CK, is this for real? Even the experts from Xuanzhen are here? 8 people blocking so many people. How arrogant. In the hearts of the Yu Huicheng's players, Xuanzhen was a mythical existence. To move unhindered was defeated, so it was reasonable that they could defeat the Gokura Kijodo. Where? There's only one. One of them pointed at Wang Yu, who was crossing his arms and looking at the Gokura Kijodo's members on the city wall. F***CK. Isn't that Guru Iron Ox? That's amazing. Everyone was in an uproar again. A single person had blocked more than 2,000 people at the revival point. This was something that they didn't even dare to think about, but it had actually happened right in front of their eyes. This game was really worth it. In the future, when they went out for a drink, they could brag about it. It wasn't a good feeling to be watched by so many people. The players from Gokura Kijodo wanted to go offline. However, if more than 2,000 players were scared offline by a single person, they would lose face in the future. So, the players from Gokura Kijodo braced themselves and crouched there with their heads lowered, afraid that they would be recorded. Wang Yu squatted on top of the wall and looked at the many people guarding one flower and one world on the ground. He didn't dare to go down and could only shout from the wall, "You can't act shamelessly like this. Do you dare to come out?" The people from the Pure Land of Bliss rolled their eyes and pretended not to hear anything. Meanwhile, the spectators were stunned again. F***CK. The people from Gokura Kijodo are so cowardly. He's alone outside and doesn't even dare to come out. How dare he call himself a big guild? Blood Red War Flag was also among the players. When he saw this scene, he couldn't help but sympathize with one flower and one world. It wasn't because he was kind, but because they were in the same boat. Blood Red War Flag understood one flower and one world's feelings better than anyone else. Wang Yu squatted on top of the wall for a while and finally got a little impatient. "It's almost midnight, and you guys are still squatting here? None of your business." One flower and one world raised his head and said angrily. "Then continue squatting. I'm going offline," Wang Yu said and jumped off the wall. When the people from Gokura Kijodo saw that Wang Yu had left, they immediately calmed down and wanted to leave. One flower and one world said in fear, "Please don't. That kid is definitely playing tricks. Wait a little longer." As expected, less than 5 minutes after Wang Yu left, he returned. One flower and one world gritted his teeth and scolded, "F***CK, didn't you scram? Why are you back?" Wang Yu smiled and said, "I'm not here to kill you this time. Our boss asked me to tell you that there's a New Year's gift for you later." After saying that, Wang Yu left again, leaving behind the dumbfounded players from Gokura Kijodo and the spectators who didn't know what was going on. New Year's gift? What New Year's gift? The people from Gokura Kijodo were all stunned. Were these guys from Xuanzhen masochists? After being chased for an entire night, did they get a thrill from being chased? All of a sudden, everyone inside and outside the revival point started discussing, guessing what kind of gift Xuanzhen would give one flower and one world. Fanluo City was the biggest city in the 14th district of the south. At the same time, it was also the old nest of Gokura Kijodo. Fanluo City didn't have a variable like Xuanzhen. As one of the top 10 guilds in the national server, Gokura Kijodo had no natural enemies. Naturally, they became the biggest guild in Fanluo City. At the same time, they were also one of the few guilds that had a guild base. Wuji led the people from Xuanzhen out of the airship and went straight to the mayor's residence in Fanluo City. At midnight on the eve of the Lunar New Year, as soon as the New Year's bell rang, Happy New Year to all players was automatically announced in Rebirth. At the same time, an even bigger and more dazzling announcement flashed on the public screen. Announcement: Guild Xuanzhen has initiated a guild war against Guild Gokura Kijodo. Let us wait and see who will be the real overlord. The announcement flashed 3 times in a row. At this time, all the players in the game were excited. Xuanzhen? Is it you Huiqing's Xuanzhen? Why did they declare war on Gokura Kijodo? The 2 guilds are worlds apart. Don't tell me there's a conflict between them? Judging from the names, one is Taoist and the other is Buddhist. Could be a conflict of beliefs. Nonsense. Our country doesn't do that. I heard that Yu Huiqing's side isn't peaceful tonight. Gokura Kijodo has moved out. First, they fought with Blood Alliance. Then, they chased after Xuanzhen. It seems like they want to unify Yu Huiqing some players who liked to browse the forums more or less knew some news. TSK. Xuanzhen doesn't have many people. How can they benefit from such a guild war? Guild wars could only be initiated by guilds with a base. Once they started fighting, they had to break through head-on. They couldn't use guerrilla tactics. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. No matter how strong Xuanzhen was, they couldn't beat Gokura Kyoto. Who knows? Anyway, those people from Xuanzhen have always liked to do these kinds of things. The players from Huicheng also saw the system announcement. Blood Red War Flag looked at one flower, one world with lingering fear. In his heart, he praised himself for being smart. Blood Red War Flag had been in contact with Xuanzhen for more than a day or two. He had some understanding of these people who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. However, he didn't expect that Xuanzhen would choose to attack Gokura Kyoto's base at this time. Although Pure Land of Bliss was a veteran guild filled with veteran players, the guild's residence was merely a symbol. If the guild were to be destroyed, they could rebuild it at any time. However, if the guild was destroyed, Pure Land of Bliss's reputation would take a huge hit. At the same time, they would lose a large number of talented players. This was especially true now that everyone knew that Quanzhen Sect was only a small guild with 10 or so people. Chapter 211. While the players in the World Channel discussed this, the players from Gokura Kyoto fell into despair. They had forgotten that Xuanzhen also had a guild encampment. Repair the plank road in the open. Move in the dark. Take drastic measures. The people from Quanzhen Sect were simply too ruthless. There was not a single player from Gokura Kyoto in Fanluo City. Even if Yu Huicheng's players turned back, it would take them 40 minutes to reach Fanluo City. Without anyone stopping them, 40 minutes was more than enough for Xuanzhen to break through the guild encampment. One Flower, One World was dumbfounded. He lay in the corner, not knowing how to describe his feelings. He had thought that Xuanzhen's players had left because they were afraid. Who would have thought that they would go straight to their own home? As for himself, a lot of things could be done in 40 minutes. In a situation where no one was stationed, it would only take a few minutes for thousands of people to destroy the Quanzhen Sect. However, a single person from the Quanzhen Sect managed to restrain everyone here, causing them to be in a daze for 40 minutes. "Boss, what do we do?" The players from Gokura Kyoto asked One Flower, One World. No matter how hopeless One Flower, One World was, he knew that he was the backbone of the guild. If he didn't pull himself together, the guild would completely collapse. "Let's surrender." One Flower, One World sighed. Surrender? Everyone was confused. One Flower, One World said, "Old Nan, don't you know someone in Xuanzhen? Contact him." "All right." Nan Yan Fudy snorted weakly. Even though the Quanzhen Sect had schemed against them in this war, it was still because of Nan Yan Fudy. Nan Yan Fudy was more miserable than anyone else that things had come to this. Fanluo City, Gokura Kyoto's guild encampment. Xuanzhen's players had already broken into the meeting hall and were furiously smashing the guild crystal at the resurrection point. Suddenly, Ming Jian said, "Wuji, One Flower, One World says he's willing to surrender. Let him express his sincerity first." Wuji didn't even raise his head as he continued to dismantle the crystal. Sincerity? Southern Yanfuti was stunned when he saw Ming Jian Daoshue's reply. "Tell them it's 5,000 gold. One Flower, One World said. 5,000 gold was definitely a large sum of money at this stage of the game. Xuanzhen only had a total of 15 people. On average, each person would have more than 300 gold. At this stage of the game, anyone who had more than 300 gold was a nouveau riche. 20,000. Let One Flower, One World add me as a friend, and we'll talk." Wuji sneered and threw out his offer without hesitation. 20,000? Why don't you go rob someone? After adding Wuji as a friend, One Flower, One World asked angrily, "Do you think your guild isn't worth that much?" Wuji said, "By the way, this is called extortion. 20,000 gold is nearly 20 million RMB. One Flower, One World coldly retorted, "Your guild has so many people. 10 gold coins per person should be enough." Our losses this time are not small. Do you know how many top-tier potions we've wasted? That's still not worth 20,000. One Flower One World was furious. No matter how precious top-tier potions were, they were only 50 silver per bottle. It was still worlds apart from the 20,000 gold coins. Wuji said, hee hee, adding on our travel expenses, mental damage compensation, and a New Year's allowance, it's about enough. How about this? I'll give you a discount. 15,000. That's our bottom line. If you're not willing, then there's no need to talk anymore. Seeing Wuji's words, One Flower One World's lungs were about to explode. Mental damage compensation? Your Chuanjin only lost 2 people in total. I've died 4 times. How much can a travel expenses be? And what the hell is a New Year's allowance? A flower. This isn't the attitude you use to negotiate. Let me tell you, our hands aren't idle. Your guild's crystal is about to explode. No, 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 no. Hearing Wuji's words, One Flower One World was scared out of his wits. 15,000 it is. As long as you don't destroy our crystal, I'll gather enough for you tomorrow. Wuji chuckled. Tomorrow? Your guild is so big. You can't even gather this much money. What if you turn on us after we give up? 10 minutes. I'll give you 10 minutes. Otherwise, we'll dismantle it. Okay, I'll gather it now. At the moment of life and death, One Flower One World hurriedly gave in. It was only 15,000 gold coins. Pure Land had almost 3,000 people, and each person only had 5 gold coins. It didn't take long for One Flower One World to gather 15,000 gold coins. Looking at the gold coins in his hand, One Flower One World's heart ached. This was the blood of the people. After gathering the gold coins, One Flower One World immediately sent a message to Wuji. Wuji said unhurriedly, someone will go get it. Wait at the revival point. The moment Wuji finished speaking, Wang Yu spread his arms and jumped down from the city wall. One Flower One World wiped his sweat and thought, thank goodness I didn't go out. This bastard really didn't log off and was waiting for me here. After Wang Yu jumped into the resurrection point, the Gokuraku players instinctively took a step back. It couldn't be helped. Wang Yu's deterrence was too strong. Anyone who fought with him would be traumatized. Give it to me, Wang Yu said to One Flower One World with his hand extended. With tears in his eyes, One Flower One World handed the money pouch to Wang Yu. At the same time, he thought to himself, F***CK, when I go back, I'll start a guild war with you and crush you. At this moment, Wuji sent another message. Flower, don't think about revenge. If I say that with us around, you won't be able to take down our base, you might not believe me, but I have to make one thing clear. To move unhindered is the boss in front of you. One Flower One World was stunned. To move unhindered was a guild with tens of thousands of people. If they dared to call themselves second in rebirth, no one would dare to call themselves first. If that was the case, wouldn't it be like poking a hornet's nest? With this thought, One Flower One World asked Wang Yu in a daze, May I know how you are related to Evil Boss? My younger brother, Wang Yu said calmly. My biological younger brother. At the same time, Wang Yu was confused. To move unhindered? One Flower One World was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. Why did he provoke this evil creature? God, we got the money. Boss Wuji should stop now, right? One Flower One World asked Wang Yu. Yes, he stopped. Wang Yu nodded. Then, we're leaving? One Flower One World looked at Wang Yu in fear. His heart was still clouded. Wang Yu waved his hand impatiently. Leave. Go home for the new year, One Flower One World was stunned. He weakly announced the order to disband in the channel. Wang Yu was still questioning Wuji. You actually want to steal their base? What's wrong? Aren't you afraid that they'll attack us? Don't you understand probability? It's a fight to the death. Wuji said calmly. Moreover, he didn't attack us, right? What if he did? Wang Yu was still fearful of Wuji's decision to cut off all means of retreat. Wuji said, a life for a life. It's not a loss. Chapter 2:12. When the system announced that the Chuanjin sect had started attacking the Gokuraku Jodo's guild encampment, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Of course, They were not worried about Gokuraku Jodo's fate. They simply wanted to see if Chuanjin could create another miracle. Unfortunately, the masters of Chuanjin disappointed them. 30 minutes after the announcement, the system announced that Chuanjin had failed in the battle for the base. This made most of the players quite depressed. After all, they were already used to the Quanjin sect's success. This time, they had high expectations for the Quanjin sect. This looks like Chuanjin's people are just like that. They brag so much on the forum, but they still can't beat Gokuraku Jodo. Many people expressed their disdain for Chuanjin on the forum. Did they not think that a dozen people against thousands of people was already impossible to win? Moreover, there was a reason why Chuanjin failed. As the saying goes, the fox grieves for the rabbit, and all things grieve for their own kind. Other than Gokuraku Jodo, the guild leaders of many big guilds in Rebirth were the ones who paid the most attention to this matter. A dozen people against thousands of people. Such a crazy move was not unheard of in the history of the game, but without exception, it was a suicidal move. However, what Chuanjin did affected the hearts of all the guild leaders in Huaxia. This Chuanjin sect had never had a day of peace ever since the game server had been launched. From time to time, they would always try to stir up some big news. Not only that, but they also King picked those unimaginable things to do. What was even more frightening was that they had never failed once. Chuanjin's actions scared the guild leaders and made them break out in cold sweat. It must be known that Chuanjin had once dragged down the #1 guild in the country, 3 Evils Manor. This speculation was widely spread among the top circles of the game. After all, 2 of the top 10 guilds in Huaxia were formed after 3 Evils Manor went bankrupt, so they had a lot of say in the matter. Although there were many internal conflicts in 3 Evils Manor that allowed Chuanjin to take advantage of them, it was still an unprecedented battle for 6 people against tens of thousands of people. Therefore, when they heard that Chuanjin had attacked Gokuraku Jodo, these guild leaders really thought that these guys could create another miracle. However, when they heard that Chuanjin had failed, they finally relaxed and let out a long sigh of relief. Looks like even a variable like Chuanjin can't do it in the face of absolute numbers. Gokuraku Jodo, who knew the truth, was naturally not so optimistic. They definitely wouldn't publicize such an embarrassing matter personally, but they were now facing a very dangerous situation. Yu Huichang couldn't go on any longer. With Chuanjin around, Gokuraku Jodo was just a bunch of cowards. They didn't have the kind of attitude that Blood Alliance had. Moreover, Gokuraku Jodo's backline was empty, and this was no longer a secret in Fanluo City. Chuanjin had retreated, but there was no guarantee that other guilds wouldn't have designs on Gokuraku Jodo. One Flower, One World, and the core members of the guild discussed it. Forget it, this broken city was a place that made them sad. They might as well go back home. Therefore, Gokuraku Jodo's army of a few thousand people started their journey back home. Yu Huichang's players all sighed. They didn't expect to see the Spring Festival in the game. When they were near the port, Gokuraku Jodo's players met Chuanjin's group head-on. Gokuraku Jodo's players lowered their heads. They really wanted to destroy these shameless guys, but because of One Flower, One World's orders, no one dared to do anything. When Chuanjin's group sloppily walked to the back of Gokuraku Jodo's group, Baiming Yoyu's smile suddenly froze. Everyone followed Baiming Yoyu's gaze and saw a girl following beside Rushi, what I smell. At the same time, she was also looking at Baiming Yoyu. The girl's expression was very complicated, but it was reasonable. This girl thought that Gokuraku Jodo was a big guild, and following Rushi, what I smell, she would be able to eat and drink well. Who knew that this unlucky girl, Baiming Yoyu, would be chosen by Chuanjin? Gokuraku Jodo's face was covered in dirt. Io, there's going to be a good show. Mingdu grinned and muttered, "What do you think that girl will think? I think she'll regret it. She'll want to pounce on us on the spot." To place one's pride said, "You're too young. That girl must be thinking that everything is Chuanjin's fault. They actually let old fish, this salted fish, turn over a new leaf." Chun Xiang laughed. "F***ck, it can't be. She's that shameless?" Yin Lao asked in surprise. Chun Xiang said, "This isn't called shameless. This is called a woman. In a woman's heart. How can they be wrong? Oomph." The girls of Chuanjin snorted coldly and glared at Chun Xiang, scaring him into immediately shutting up. "Have you seen enough? If you want revenge, go quickly. They'll fly away in a while." Baosen walked over and patted Bai Ming Yoyu's shoulder. "Can I?" Bai Ming Yoyu was very surprised. They had already stopped fighting, but they still took the initiative to provoke them. Were Chuanjin's people so arrogant? Wu Ji said with a smile, "As long as they don't kill one flower, one world, no one will care." Bai Ming Yoyu sighed and said, "Forget it." After all, before Bai Ming could finish her words, Yang Na dashed forward, raised her crossbow, and shot at the girl's face, killing her instantly. Ru Shimi Wen's expression changed, and just as she was about to retaliate, Yang Na kicked Ru Shimi Wen's lower abdomen. Ru Shimi Wen's body bent over, and Yang Na raised her crossbow and shot at her head, killing her instantly. After killing the two, Yang Na retreated under the furious gazes of everyone from Pure Land Paradise. Then, she threw a disdainful look at Bai Ming Yoyu. "You're so wishy-washy. You're not a man. No wonder you're in this state." Everyone from Chuanjin. At this moment, One Flower, One World received the news and hurriedly ran over. He glared fiercely at Wu Ji and said, "Cult Master Wu Ji, isn't our business over? What's the meaning of you allowing your subordinate to do this?" Wu Ji chuckled and said, "It's the personal grudges of our subordinates. As the boss, it's best that we don't interfere." Don't go too far." One Flower, One World unsheathed his long sword, looking as though he would start another round at the slightest disagreement. "Bully? Who's bullying?" Suddenly, a voice came from not far away. One Flower, One World was so frightened that he nearly knelt on the ground. "Guru Iron Ox, we've already finished fighting. Isn't it a little against the rules for your Chuanjin people to still kill people?" One Flower, One World asked weakly. What did he mean? Against the rules. These 8 words fully expressed One Flower, One World's attitude towards Wu Ji and Wang Yu. The former was rather indignant. As for the latter, he could only use the word rules to speak. Was there a need to explain whether he was convinced or not? Wang Yu chuckled as he walked to Mu Zixion's side. He wrapped his arm around Mu Zixion's shoulder and asked Wu Ji with a smile, "Rules? Is there such a rule?" "We are the rules," Wu Ji said. Chapter 213. "Fine, I'll remember you." One Flower, One World glared at Wu Ji, sheathed his sword, and left. Bai Ming Yoyu, Li Shui, and the others looked worried, while the others looked indifferent. "Boss Wu Ji, One Flower, One World isn't easy to deal with," Bai Ming Yoyu said to Wu Ji with concern. Wu Ji curled his lips. "No wonder the lady doesn't like you. Naturally, you should play the game however you want. They can't really kill you, so what are you afraid of? What if they take revenge?" Mingdu said, "If you can beat them, then fight. If you can't beat them, then run. If you really can't beat them, then don't play the game. It's not a big deal. Which game of ours isn't chased by people all over the world? Just get used to it." Bai Ming Yoyu was speechless. The way these people thought wasn't something a normal professional player like her could understand. Spring Xiang said, all right. Don't say such a depressing thing during the new year. Say something more auspicious." To place one's pride said happily, "Auspicious? Of course it's to split the money." In Gokuraku Jodo's team, One Flower, One World's face was extremely gloomy. He had played so many games, but he had never felt so suffocated. Even in front of the big guilds, One Flower, One World was arrogant. He didn't expect to lose face in front of a rascal. "Since they're back, why don't we kill them now?" Rushimiwen said. One Flower, One World said, "Forget it. These people will be unlucky sooner or later, but not now. Are we just going to swallow it like this? There's no choice. If it's just those rascals, then it's fine. That Grandmaster of Combat isn't easy to deal with." One Flower, One World said helplessly. Just as Spring Xiang said, in a woman's mind, she was never wrong. For example, Bloodrose. Because of her, not only did she not reflect at all, she even thought that it was Blood Alliance and Xuanjin teaming up to bully her. Hence, Bloody Rose left the guild in a fit of anger. She blocked everyone's friend list and went to another city alone. Although Bloody Rose was hesitant, she was not a complete fool. At this time, she understood the cause and effect of the matter. After all, this was caused by Bloody Rose. Due to the bad reputation of Chuanjin, Blood Red War Flag did not dare to provoke them, so Bloody Rose was even more helpless. However, the girl had thought it through. Ever since she became the guild leader, there was nothing she was willing to do. For example, Li Shui and the others, and targeting Chuanjin. When it came to games, it was considered entertainment. When it came to responsibilities, it was just asking for punishment. What bullsh**! T Guild. Ever since Spear and Rose closed down, Bloody Rose had never been happy playing a guild again. It seemed that cheating and deceiving each other really wasn't suitable for someone like her. After figuring this out, Bloody Rose transferred the guild leader position to Bloody Azalea and left the guild without saying a word. As for where she went, not even Blood Red War Flag knew. In the meeting room of Chuanjin's guild base, 15 people from Chuanjin were sitting around a table and dividing the loot. There was a large pile of red money bags on the table. The system had designed the money bags to be wrapped in red with the word fortune on them. Wuji rewarded them according to their contributions. Chun Xiang, to place one's pride, Dao Shui, and Old Fish saved me, 1,000 each. Second brother, Old Li, and third brother are frightened, 1,000 each for mental damage. Me and Lady Qing Shui each died once, 1,000 each for compensation. Just like that, Wuji muttered to himself as he distributed the money to everyone. 15,000 gold, exactly 1,000 per person. Mingdu said with disdain, "Damn, can't you just say it's split evenly? Why do you have to be so hypocritical?" Wuji said, "It's not the same. This way, everyone knows their responsibilities." Li Shui said with some embarrassment, "We didn't do anything. Isn't 1,000 a bit too much?" "Not at all." Before Wuji could say anything, Bao San spoke first. "It's all thanks to your potions this time. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to hold on," Bao San said with lingering fear. "That's right," Mingdu added, "Sigh, now that I think about it, it would have been better if we were dead. The three of us used 30 sets of potions. Sigh, what a waste." Li Shui felt a lump in her throat when she saw everyone's approval of the four of them. Li Shui was not an idiot. Of course, she knew that no matter how expensive the potions were, they would not be worth 4,000 gold. Even though the people from Chuanjin were all evil, they would never mistreat their own people. When Li Shui and the others were in a big guild, they had never experienced such warmth. "Little Shui, take it," Mu Zixian said with a smile. "I only opened a door. Didn't I get 1,000 too? See, I won't reject it. Not at all, not at all. If Sister Nyo didn't open the door, we would have been beaten to death. When Nyoga wasn't home, we were happy to be in the same room with Sister Nyo." The animals laughed wretchedly. After splitting the money, it was already 2 o'clock at night. They chatted for a while and went offline. Wang Yu did not have the habit of staying up late, so he slept until noon the next day after going offline. When he went online, he saw the people from Chuanjin sitting in the meeting room. They did not leave. "Did you guys just go online?" Wang Yu asked curiously. "You still know how to go online? We almost called you." Mingdu shouted. "What happened? Are you being hunted again?" Wang Yu asked. These people loved to cause trouble, so it was not unusual for them to be hunted for a few days straight. Bao San said, "It's time to give out the event rewards. I heard that the top 10 have special rewards." Oh. Wang Yu then remembered that the event ended on the first day of the Lunar New Year. He had been busy with other things these few days, so Wang Yu almost forgot about the event. "We didn't do much, so we shouldn't be in the top 10, Wang Yu mumbled. Hee hee. Chun Xiang laughed. "Brother Iron Ox, how many points do you have?" 40634. Wang Yu looked at the quest panel and replied. Chun Xiang said, "How many Nian beasts are there?" "I think there's one per city." Wang Yu thought for a while and said, "That's it." Chun Xiang shrugged. During the open beta, there were more than 10 million players in the game. With 7 per city, there were 300 cities, which meant 2,100 Nian beasts. Before Firecracker's effect was known, normal players could not kill Nian beasts. The big guilds had to rely on numbers to grind them down, so the average points were very low. After Firecracker's effect was announced on the forum, there were more and more players looking for Nian beasts, so the points were even lower. 40,000 points was an astronomical number for other players. Chapter 214. Only Wang Yu's group of 8 had more than 40,000 points in Chuanjin. For Li Shui and the others to be able to reach 10,000 points was already pretty good. Yang Na entered the game late and had a lot of quests, so she didn't kill many Nian beasts and only got a few hundred points. Baiming Yuyu was even worse off with 0 points. He had been chased for the past few days. As for Mu Zixian, there was no need to mention her. She was a knight, and her skills were bad. She was leveling up in a random party. Even if there was a chance, no one would bring her along to fight Nian beasts. It was now 11:50 p.m., and there were still 10 minutes before the end of the event. The other players wanted to take advantage of the fact that the event was not over to kill as many monsters as possible. The only ones who could leisurely wait for the news were those from the Chuanjin sect, who had frighteningly high scores, and those like Baiming Yuyu. At noon, the event ended. The system prompted that the points would be calculated and rewards would be given out in 10 minutes. Players cleared out their bags and so on. After the points were calculated, the top 3 were Mingdu, Wuji, and Chun Xiang. Wang Yu spent most of his time doing quests these days. Since he didn't get any experience from killing monsters, he didn't go to level up, so he was ranked 8th. The fact that Wuji was in the top 3 surprised Wang Yu. Chun Xiang's group had an AoE poison control and Mingdu's AoE damage. It was fine if these two were in the top 3, but Wuji, who had low damage output, was also in the top 3. It was a little thought-provoking. Behind them were Blood Red War Flag and 2012. Li Shui and the others were the most wronged. They also had more than 10,000 points and were outside of the top 10. In the end, everyone was shocked to find that the 1st to 14th place were all Yu Huiqing's people. Apart from the top 14, the 15th place with the most points was only a few thousand. There was nothing they could do about it. When Nian heard the sound of firecrackers, it would be frightened and flee everywhere. Therefore, even if they found the Nian's weakness, they would not be able to find another team like Quan Zhun Sek's team, who could kill the Nian with just 10 or so people. Wuji, not bad. You've done quite a lot of damage, haven't you? What reward did you get? Mingdu asked Wuji. In Rebirth, the last hit would be 50% of the reward for killing a monster that wasn't part of a team. Wuji was a skilled player, so naturally, it was easy for him to land the killing blow. As for why the others didn't kill him, in Yu Huiqing's territory, who would be willing to offend this bad guy for the sake of points and experience, an unlucky quest? Wuji pursed his lips and asked Mingdu, "What about you?" "It's also a quest. I think it's a hidden profession quest." Mingdu displayed the quest. The Secret of Space Quest Grade B. Go to Thunderstorm City and look for Grand Mage Reynolds' disciple, Ryan. He will give you some pointers. Quest Reward. Hidden Profession, Compound Mage. When Chun Xiang saw this, he laughed and said, "Bullsh asterisk T hidden job. This is just a hidden branch job. This old man is the hidden job." As he spoke, Chun Xiang took out a black token. Seeing this token, Wang Yu and Yang Na couldn't help but cry out, "A job change token." Rebirth was a game with a high degree of freedom. Intelligent NPCs were everywhere, and there were actually quite a number of hidden jobs. As long as players were willing to explore, they might be able to get a hidden job from an intelligent NPC. For example, Li Shui's alchemist and Wang Yu's refiner were all hidden life professions. Mingdu's space mage was a hidden branch job. It was a special branch that was derived from the foundations of other professions. For example, dark assassin, heavy archer, berserker, and so on. These professions had their own unique skill trees based on the original skill trees of their respective professions. As long as a breakthrough was found, many people could change their profession. Among all the hidden jobs, the rarest were the 7 unique hidden jobs. Other than the martial arts scholar, the other 6 hidden jobs were personally taught by the 7 heroes, so they were also called hero jobs. And the common point of the 7 hero jobs was that they needed a job change token. Wang Yu and Yang Na were both hero jobs, so they naturally recognized this token at a glance. Not bad. Chun Xiang nodded and showed them the attributes of the token. Cultivator job change token, rare item. Bring to Holy Light City. The Great Sage Druid will tell you what to do next. F***CK. Mingdu immediately panicked. This isn't fair. I'm clearly first. Why is my reward not as good as yours? Wang Yu said, yours is a B-rank mission. With your strength, you can definitely complete it easily. Brother Chun's is at least an A-rank mission. Whether he can complete it or not is another matter. Moreover, the advancement of hero jobs is very deceptive. In short, you're the one who benefits more. Sigh. Although that's true, there's only one hero job. Old cow, what's yours? Mingdu asked Wang Yu gloomily. I don't know what it is either. Wang Yu said gloomily. Then, he showed a skill book. Assemble. Rare skill. Skill requirement. Beginner engineering. Mingdu was speechless for a moment. His heart immediately calmed down. He patted Wang Yu's shoulder and said, my condolences. The system is such an idiot. It always comes up with things that no one can understand. Mingdu's was a hidden job mission that everyone envied. Wang Yu's was simply deceptive. Suo Dao Shui also had a skill called Second Stage Stealth. After exiting stealth, the user could forcefully activate stealth a second time without being restricted by skill cooldowns. The skill cooldowns would stack. It was a very practical skill. Yin Laoer's skill was called Enhanced Shield Wall. It was the enhanced version of Shield Wall for level 20 Shield Warriors. It increased defense by 100%. Bao 3's reward was a special accessory called Battle Heart. It increased rage and the casting time of Whirlwind Slash. To place one's pride had always been miserable. This time, he was very lucky. He obtained a weapon shard. It was a shard of the Thorn of Despair. It was said that to place one's pride had already requested to purchase this shard from the consignment shop. He even bought one. To place one's pride now had 4 shards in his hands. It seemed that it was only a matter of time before this kid collected all the Thorn of Despair. After the rewards were distributed, the system warmly reminded the players that points could be exchanged for items from the class mentors. However, the items that could be exchanged were random. The attributes were also hidden. As for what could be exchanged, it was entirely up to the player's luck. This made the players curse. Damn it. Random was the worst thing to do in a game. With the system's deceptive nature, anything that could be exchanged randomly would be a miracle if it could be exchanged for something good. Chapter 215. See for yourself. After hearing the reason for Wang Yu's visit, Hermit said indifferently and ignored Wang Yu. Wang Yu opened the exchange window and was speechless. It seemed that he hadn't played enough games and hadn't seen enough of the system's tricks. There were a total of 25 items in the redemption box, divided into 5 levels, with 5 items on each level. From bottom to top, they were arranged according to the points required to redeem them. The items on the lowest level required single-digit points, while the next level required 10-digit points, and so on. The items on the highest level required at least 10,000 points. There were scrolls, blueprints, equipment, and skill books. There were many types of items, but they all had one thing in common. These items had no attributes. As for what they would get, it was up to fate. Wang Yu was a reliable person. He always liked to listen to other people's opinions when it came to gambling, especially when it was something he wasn't confident in winning. Teacher, what do you think I should choose? Wang Yu stuffed 10 gold coins into the NPC's hands. After playing the game for so long, Wang Yu had already figured out the rules. Gold coins were very useful to intelligent NPCs, but if you gave them less than 10 gold coins, they wouldn't bother with you. Mr. Hermit rolled his eyes and said meaningfully, expensive doesn't necessarily mean good stuff, and cheap definitely won't. Makes sense. Wang Yu nodded and asked again, should I choose equipment or something else? Hermit said again, there's no good or bad. It only depends on whether it's suitable or not. After hearing Hermit's words, Wang Yu chose a blueprint on the top level and clicked to exchange it. Thank you, teacher. Wang Yu's requirements for equipment were actually not too high. Skills and whatnot were restricted by professions. For a hidden profession like a martial arts scholar, The chances of obtaining a skill from his profession was too low. As for scrolls, they were definitely powerful, but most of them were single-use items. Using them once was the most troublesome. Blueprints were limited to blacksmiths in Rebirth, so after thinking about it, Wang Yu felt that blueprints were the most suitable for him. System notice: you have obtained a rare blueprint. New Year points, 20,000. Rare blueprint. Seeing the notification, Wang Yu was overjoyed. He took out the blueprint from his bag and was stunned. Rifling blueprint. Rare blueprint, usage requirement, beginner engineering. F***CK. Wang Yu was so angry that he almost passed out. He had thought that listening to Hermit would be the safest way to draw something good. Who would have thought that he would get such a rubbish item? Rifling? What the hell? Was there such a thing in the 7 main classes? Wang was about to collapse. He asked Hermit gloomily, "Teacher, aren't you setting me up? I've already made it very clear." The more expensive it is, the better it is. Hermit's reply left Wang Yu speechless. It was just a lucky draw, and the final right to explain was still in the hands of the system. "Can I get a refund or something?" Wang Yu asked pitifully. This was 20,000 points. Anything that could be exchanged for would be better than this thing. Even someone like Wang Yu, who did not have high expectations for worldly possessions, could not help but feel the pinch. "This is against the rules," Hermit said with some difficulty. "Then you can. Is 10 gold coins enough?" In the mouth of an AI NPC, if it was against the rules, it meant that they could open the back door. After being cheated many times, they would naturally understand. Hermit took the gold coins and said, "Not enough. You need 500 gold coins." F***CK. Wang Yu clenched his fists, his anger soaring. Hermit hurriedly said, don't rush. I can give you a quest for 10 gold coins. After completing the quest, you will understand the value of this thing." "What quest?" Wang Yu asked. "That blueprint of yours is a product of the ancient goblin civilization. It's actually very valuable. This blueprint was originally a set, but after the destruction of the goblin civilization, it was split into 3 and landed in different corners of the continent. Are you willing to find them?" System notification: you have activated the quest, Lost Civilization. Quest rank A. Do you accept? Accept. System notification: you have accepted the quest, Lost Civilization. Quest rank A. Find the lost blueprints of the goblins. Magic magazine 1-1. Rifling 1-1. Firing pin 0 out of 1. Seeing this quest notification, Wang Yu finally understood. So this was where the magic magazine was used. Magazine, rifling, firing pin, what's going on? Wang Yu asked curiously. Secondary weapon, magic gun, Hermit replied. Only someone like Wang Yu, who lacked knowledge, wouldn't know what rifling and firing pin were used for. Guns. Wang Yu was a bit speechless. As a martial artist, Wang Yu didn't have a good impression of these things. It was because of these things that martial artists were on the decline. Right, I heard that firing pin creation is in the hands of the goblins. Right now, their race is in the goblin swamp in the Elven City. You can go there and take a look, Hermit said to Wang Yu. Thank you, teacher. Wang Yu cupped his fists towards Hermit and turned to leave. Hermit smiled. Don't be in such a hurry. There are still good things here. You really don't want to take a look? In the past, after being scammed, Wang Yu definitely wouldn't fall for a second time. However, the New Year's points could only be exchanged for 12 hours. After it expired, it would be reset to 0. Whether or not he exchanged it now, it didn't matter. Wang Yu gritted his teeth and exchanged the last 20,000 points for a skill book. Equipment would eventually become outdated, but skill books wouldn't. Even if he couldn't use them, he could still sell them. This time, the system was quite generous. Wang Yu didn't waste his 20,000 points for nothing. The skill books he exchanged for were all class skills. Golden Bell Cover, rare skill. Spreads powerful chi throughout the entire body, forming a protective barrier that absorbs 20% of damage taken. For 60 seconds, increases physical and magic defense by 100%. Class requirement, Monk. After a striker became a monk, their grab skills were still powerful. After wearing heavy armor, they could also be used as a tank class. This Golden Bell Cover was a pretty good skill. However, Wang Yu rarely got hit by a target. so this skill book was slightly useless. In Xuanzhen, besides Wang Yu, the other fighter was to place one's pride. Although to place one's pride was also a monk, he focused on agility. This skill book couldn't be used, so Wang Yu put away golden bell cover and planned to sell it. After exchanging the skills, Wang Yu exchanged the remaining 600 points. As Hermit said, cheap things didn't have anything good. Below the third floor, there was only equipment to choose from. The 600 points were exchanged 3 times for 3 pieces of bronze trash. With the last 4 points, Wang Yu didn't have any hope. His fingers clicked randomly, and the equipment entered his bag, emitting a dark golden light. Chapter 2:16. Wang Yu extended her hand and took out the equipment. It was a sword. Wang Yu fell in love with it the moment he saw its design. Rebirth was a Western fantasy game. There were only swords and blades in the game. Wang Yu had never seen a traditional sword before. The sword was about 3.5 feet long. The blade was straight and narrow, with a scabbard and a long handle. It was suitable for both hands to hold. The handguard extended past the blade by a finger on each side. It was a standard Tang sword. Universe blade, 2-handed sword, dark gold, failed, attack, 17-26 mana, 5-17 plus 1 agility plus 6 strength quick switch. Can quickly switch between weapons. Sheath. Attacks have a critical hit effect. Long blade. Attack speed decreased by 50%. Attack increased by 100%. Short blade. Attack decreased by 50%. Attack increased by 100%. Class requirement. Common level requirement. 1 item description. When Blacksmith Simba was young, he traveled the continent and accidentally entered a mysterious country. The people there used this universe blade as their weapon. He tried to imitate it several times, but failed. He could only imitate its shape, but not its essence. Trash. Trash in the truest sense of the word. If other players saw this blade, they would definitely look down on it. Super low main attributes, super low attribute bonuses, and even the 4 additional attributes were trash among trash. It was a disgrace to the word dark gold. The only good thing about this sword was that it was very ornamental, and its ability to switch between forms was very unique. However, for players, no matter how unique it was, trash attributes were useless. But in Wang Yu's eyes, this was a real treasure. Wang Yu was a fighter. When he chose a weapon, the first thing he looked at was whether it was the right size, the second was whether it was suitable, and the last was whether it was strong. This universe blade's weight was suitable, and its shape was what Wang Yu liked the most. As for the attributes, they were secondary, especially the ability to switch between 3 forms. This was what Wang Yu liked the most. The long blade had a wide attack range and high attack power, which could be used to make up for the shortcoming of a Grandmaster of Combat short arms. The short blade had a fast attack speed, which was suitable for close combat. One weapon had 3 uses. In Wang Yu's eyes, this was a godly skill. Putting away the universe blade, Wang Yu left the alley. Wang Yu did not like to use guns, so he was not in a hurry to complete the Lost Civilization mission. After all, the Elven City was too far away from Yuhuichen. If he went back and forth, he would use up half a day's worth of points. It was not worth it. He would do it when he had time in the future. After leaving the alley, Wang Yu arrived at the grocery store in the south of the city. Mu Zixian was busy in the grocery store. She was busy placing the goods on the shelves bit by bit. The goods were all over the place. There were potions made by Li Shui, equipment with attributes made by Marie, and some trash that was just for show. Although there was an automatic sorting option in the game that solved the problem of categorizing the items, the boss had to personally mark the price. Every different item had to be marked once, and it was quite troublesome. "You're here." Seeing Wang Yu walk into the store, Mu Zixian stopped what she was doing and said with a smile, "Yup, are you tired? Let me help you." Wang Yu walked over to help Mu Zixian place the goods. Mu Zixian hurriedly said, "You should rest at the side. Don't make things worse for me, Wang Yu." In Mu Zixian's eyes, Wang Yu would always be a child that needed someone to take care of him. Over time, Wang Yu actually got used to this feeling. It seemed like young masters from big families had a common Oedipus complex. Mu Zixian placed the goods on the shelves one by one. Wang Yu patiently watched from the side. After half an hour, the goods were finally all on the shelves. Only then did Wang Yu say, "Why aren't there any customers?" At first, Wang Yu thought that this place was closer to the city gate, so it would be easier to attract business. Who knew that after half an hour, not a single customer would come? "I'm not sure. Maybe there isn't any advertising, so people don't know about this place," Mu Zixin said. "That's easy." Wang Yu opened the game's sound transmission channel and bought a set of sound transmission speakers. Opening a store in the game, advertising was quite simple. A sound transmission speaker within the city was only 10 silver coins. A sound transmission speaker covering the entire city was 1 gold coin, and the world announcement speaker was only 10 gold coins. 10 gold coins was quite valuable, but compared to the advertising fees in real life, it was nothing. The South City grocery store is open. Everyone is welcome to come and purchase. Wang Yu didn't have much talent in advertising. This advertising slogan was learned from the big loudspeaker in front of the store that sold dried fruits from the West. However, after shouting for a long time, a set of 10 loudspeakers had no effect. There were still no customers. This made Wang Yu very depressed. At this time, there was someone in the guild, Wang Yu. Wang Yu opened it and saw that it was Wuji. "What's wrong?" Wang Yu asked Wuji. Wuji said with disdain, "You're like a fool. What are you shouting for? My shop is open for business. Let's advertise." "You can't do that," Wuji said. "Then give me a good idea." Wang Yu was very humble. In terms of using his brain, Wang Yu admitted that he was far inferior to Wuji. Wuji said, "It's the peak time for leveling up. Everyone is busy clearing dungeons and monsters. Who has time to come to your store? When they are free, they will forget about you. So you have to find someone that can attract their attention." Attract attention? Yes, Wang Yu thought for a while and said, "Then how about I catch you guys to do a striptease?" These guys from Chuanjin indeed had a lot of fans in Yuhuicheng. Wuji sighed and said, "Awesome, you've become bad. You even know how to do stripteases. If this goes on, your wife will blame it on us sooner or later. Then what should we do? Do you want me to capture Chun Xiang and turn him into a human? If you want to bully us again, we will break up." Wuji was furious. "Of all the people I know, you guys are the most eye-catching. Then do you have anything good?" "Yes, but it's not for you," Wang Yu said. "It's okay, as long as someone is using it. Just do as I say." Not long after, above Yuhuicheng, a big speaker that covered the whole city sounded. "Warrior Monk's rare skill, Golden Bell Shield, will be auctioned now. Coordinates, Yuhuicheng City South Sundry Shop. There's only one chance. Everyone come and bid." In addition, there was a screenshot of the skill book. After bidding, Wang Yu still felt uneasy. So he asked Wuji, "Is your idea okay?" "Of course, when is my idea not okay?" Wuji said with a smile. "But no one is here yet." Wang Yu looked outside the door. The coordinates had been sent out, but no one was interested. Wuji said calmly, "Don't worry, let the news spread for a while. You're going to be a big boss soon. Remember to give me a 10% commission when you sell the skill book. As long as it is useful, I will give you 20%, Wang Yu promised. If it was put in an auction, the commission would be 10%. Moreover, there was tax. 10% was not much for Wuji. Chapter 217. Wuji's idea was naturally effective. As soon as Wang Yu's megaphone was released, the Grandmasters of Combat in Yu Huicheng's vicinity were all fired up. Grandmasters of Combat were originally a class that was criticized, but due to the existence of Wang Yu, the number of Grandmasters of Combat had slowly increased. Especially in Yu Huicheng, the number of Grandmasters of Combat had actually reached a normal ratio. This was something that the players didn't even dare to think about when the game was first launched. Mages took longer to develop, and Chi Masters were trash in the early stages of the game. Therefore, most Grandmasters of Combat players chose to be Strikers. And Monk was the class after the advancement of Strikers. Everyone was no longer a newbie like they were when they first entered the game. They had figured out a few things about the Pugilist class. For example, the class's grab skill was very useful in both PvP and PvE. Therefore, many pugilists who were more confident in their skills volunteered to be the front line in order to show off their skills in the dungeon. The most important class in dungeons was the tank. A good tank had a huge impact on the success rate of dungeons, especially when they encountered a boss in manual mode. Having a Grandmaster of Combat as a tank in the party was a perfect arrangement. The most prominent attribute of a tank was naturally defense. The skill Golden Bell Cocoon not only increased defense, but it could also increase a barrier. For those Grandmasters of Combat who specialized in tanking, it was a skill that could only be found by chance. Tanking Grandmasters of Combat were very popular in the major guilds. As soon as Wang Yu's message was released, not only the players who were farming monsters, but even the parties in dungeons all left the dungeon and rushed to Yu Huiqing's location. There were even people who added Wang Yu as a friend on the way and sent him a private message about the price. Wang Yu was annoyed and simply closed the friend request. Not long after, the alley south of the city was filled with players. At a glance, almost all of them were Grandmasters of Combat. It was very rare to see so many Grandmasters of Combat on a normal day. Sitting in the shop, Wang Yu saw that there were more and more people. He secretly thought, this kid Wu Ji is really good. He attracted so many people in such a short time. Wang Yu estimated that it was about time for people to arrive, so he walked out of the shop. Everyone was excited when they saw Wang Yu. They were all Grandmasters of Combat, so they knew very well how aggrieved Grandmasters of Combat were in the past. The reason why the Grandmasters of Combat here could survive until now was because they had Wang Yu as their idol. Therefore, in the eyes of the Grandmasters of Rebirth, Wang Yu is not only an idol, but also a spiritual mentor. Wang Yu is also the kind of person who liked to go around doing quests. It was not easy to meet Wang Yu on a daily basis. There was only one Golden Bell Cocoon, but it was not a waste to be able to meet his idol. Wang Yu cleared his throat and said, I used my New Year's points to exchange for this book, so I have no use for it. I don't know much about auctions, so let's follow the old rules. The highest bidder wins. Now let's start the bidding. Needless to say, this group of Grandmasters of Combat were all very rich, each of them rich and overbearing. Because the Grandmaster of Combat profession was very rare, the skills and equipment of the Grandmaster of Combat profession were very cheap. These guys were also experts, and the big guilds were supporting them, so they were not short of money. 50 gold. A Grandmaster of Combat was the first to place a bid. Wang Yu did not set a starting price, but in front of his idol, anyone who set a starting price of 1 gold for this skill would not only be an insult to the skill, but it would also be suspected of looking down on the auctioneer. This would incur the wrath of the crowd. 55. A Grandmaster of Combat shouted, unwilling to be outdone. Very quickly, the price of Golden Bell Cocoon rose all the way to 120 gold before stopping. This skill was not bad, but the price of rare skills in the market was between 50 to 100 gold. 120 gold was already above the market price. 121. Just as the deal was about to be made, someone at the back suddenly shouted. Wang Yu looked towards the direction of the voice. It was none other than Blood Red War Flag. Blood Red War Flag's bid made the Grandmasters of Combat unhappy. They thought to themselves, what is a knight trying to do with a Grandmaster of Combat skill? Of course, the Grandmaster of Combat, who called for 120, was not happy. Without hesitation, he called out his own price. 122. Everyone was speechless. After holding it in for so long, he only added 1 gold. It seemed like there was no hope. As expected, Blood Red War Flag smiled and directly called out 200. The Grandmaster of Combat looked at Blood Red War Flag resentfully, sighed, and did not raise the bid anymore. It was already 200. As long as one was not stupid, no one would be mad at Blood Red War Flag. Wang Yu smiled and walked over to trade the skill to Blood Red War Flag. Then, he said to everyone, don't be disappointed, everyone. This grocery store is open by me. In the future, there will be more rare skills. Apart from rare skills, there will be other good things. Everyone can look around. We want Ox God's autograph. Do you have it? Someone shouted with a smile. Wang Yu was slightly taken aback. Mu Zixian, who was at the side, said, of course there is, but it's only for today. Anyone who buys from this shop can get Iron Bull's signature. Really? Do you have the final say? Everyone was doubtful of Mu Zixian's words. What kind of person was Iron Ox? Would he listen to a woman? Mu Zixin smiled and pointed at the grocery store sign. Yes. Everyone looked up. Whoa, Aunt Neo's grocery store. Everyone knew who this woman was. From this, it could be seen that the true #1 player in Rebirth was not Iron Ox, but Aunt Neo. Everyone understood and teased Wang Yu. One by one, they went into the grocery store to see what Aunt Neo was selling. Actually, no one really cared about this small store. If it wasn't opened by Wang Yu and his wife, they probably wouldn't even bother to look at it. However, when everyone went in and looked at the shelves, they were all shocked. Damn, bronze equipment made by players. The attributes are almost on par with silver equipment. Damn, rare materials. Where did you get them? Am I seeing things? Finally, everyone's eyes fell on the intermediate health potions and the concoctions. They were completely petrified. Concoctions could be found in the system store, and the price was more than double the price here. As for the intermediate health potions, they could only be found in the consignment store. Moreover, once they appeared, they would be instantly snatched up by other workshops and then sold for a very high price. So this was basically a monopoly of goods. It was the kind where there was demand but no supply. Only rich players would have a few bottles to protect themselves. Other players wouldn't be able to buy them even if they wanted to. However, Aunt Neo's grocery store was not only extremely cheap, but it also seemed to have a lot of them. How could everyone not be shocked? Nyogu, you're amazing. You get so many good things. The guild leader of a big guild like Blood Red War Flag couldn't help but sigh when he saw the intermediate health potions in Mu Zixin's store. He also wanted to squeeze in and buy a few bottles. Chapter 218. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Shoa.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. They definitely did it on purpose. Blood Red War Flag said hatefully. Love, go small, say, Netka, don't worry, we have enough goods here. If you want, I can go get more at any time. Mu Zixin said with a smile. Really? Do you have a supply? Blood Red War Flag asked in surprise. Wang Yu said, it was done by the 4 girls that were being hunted by your guild. Blood Red War Flag's expression stiffened. Wang Yu could clearly see a trace of regret on its face. For a brat, they had thrown away a pile of gold. This was definitely the most regretful thing that Blood Red War Flag had ever done. Seeing Blood Red War Flag's expression, Wang Yu ignored it and went to help Mu Zixin take care of business. Right now, the mainstream equipment was bronze grade. Since the bronze grade equipment sold in the grocery store was self-made by players, its attributes were comparable to ordinary silver grade equipment. Everyone shopped around the store for a while longer before leaving, satisfied. Wang Yu still gave autographs to the players who didn't buy anything here so that they could help advertise. After everyone left, Blood Red War Flag did not leave. It stood foolishly in the shop and said unnaturally, Nyogu is so lucky to have a wife who can make money so well. Wang Yu was rendered speechless by this idiot. Instead of buying anything, he was praising someone else's wife. Was this how he did things? Are you busy? Mu Zixin asked Blood Red War Flag with a smile. As soon as the Blood Red War Flag appeared, Mu Zixin sensed that there was a problem. It was clearly a skill book worth 100 gold coins, yet he wanted to spend 200 gold coins to buy it. If this person didn't have a favor to ask, then he was a fool. Everyone else had already left, but he was still lingering around and refusing to buy anything. This further confirmed Mu Zixin's suspicions. Blood Red War Flag said awkwardly, there's indeed something. Oh, just say it if you have something to say. Don't make it so awkward. Wang Yu said helplessly. I want to ask Nyogu to do some work. Blood Red War Flag said. What job? Blood Red War Flag said, help us clear Hurricane Cave. Is your guild planning to build a base? Mu Zixin's knowledge of the game was very comprehensive. She immediately guessed Blood Red War Flag's goal. HM, that's right, Blood Red War Flag replied. Hurricane Cave was a level 20 instance dungeon. This instance dungeon was different from the Scarlet Church. It was not part of the main quest dungeon. In the setting of Rebirth, non-main quest dungeons would drop special items. For example, the final boss in the Cave of Hurricane, Lamia Angela, would drop a base token. Of course, The drop rate in Rebirth was as ridiculous as ever, so if you wanted to obtain a guild token, you would need to obtain the first kill of the Abyss dungeon. Blood Alliance's main guild and subsidiary guilds added up to over 3,000 people. Picking out 15 experts who were level 20 and above was still possible. However, Blood Alliance had tried the level 20 Abyss dungeon once, and the monsters inside were extremely strong. They didn't even get to the first boss before being wiped out. This was why Blood Red War Flag thought of Wang Yu. This was because Blood Red War Flag had seen the recording of Chuanjin and the others clearing the Hell Dungeon. Chuanjin and the others could clear the Hell Dungeon with a few burdens, so the Abyss Dungeon shouldn't be a problem for them. If that's the case, after listening to Blood Red War Flag's explanation, Wang Yu said, "You have to ask Wuji about this. There's no use asking me. I'm not the boss. Actually, we only need you to follow the group." Blood Red War Flag heard Wang Yu's words and was slightly frightened. Wuji had really scared them. Last time, when they killed Nian, Chuanjin got the lion's share. This time, they were going to help them clear the instance dungeon. Wouldn't Blood Alliance be scared out of their wits? In comparison, although Wang Yu was strong and killed people like flies, compared to that guy who ate people without spitting out bones, he was as tame as a pet. Moreover, the biggest difficulty of this instance dungeon was that the tank wouldn't be able to tank it. In a recording of Chuanjin clearing the Hell Dungeon, Wang Yu didn't suffer any losses when fighting the boss alone. He would definitely be able to tank it. Blood Red War Flag's real reason for looking for Wang Yu was just to find someone to tank the monsters. Wang Yu was a straightforward person without any schemes. If he was here, he would definitely agree to Blood Red War Flag's request. However, Mu Zixin was here. She could guess Blood Red War Flag's goal from their expression. How could she let Wang Yu suffer losses? Mu Zixin laughed and said, "Iron Ox is Chuanjin's man after all. I have to tell Wuji about this to prevent any misunderstandings between them. I hope you can understand." At the same time, Mu Zixin sent a private message to Wang Yu. "Call Wuji over." Wang Yu silently sent a message to Wuji. I understand. Blood Red War Flag wiped his sweat and said to Wang Yu, "No good, don't worry. As long as we can get the base token, I won't mistreat you." Okay. Wang Yu nodded and said, "Wuji said he'll be here soon. He asked us to wait for him to come before we talk." Blood Red War Flag had a bitter expression and thought, "Damn, what's going to come will come." 3 minutes later, Wuji came to the shop. He first greeted Wang Yu and his wife, then smiled and said to Blood Red War Flag, "Blood Boss, if there's anything, just tell me. I'm Iron Ox's manager." When Blood Red War Flag saw Wuji's kind face, it felt like it was looking at a butcher with a knife. Blood Red War Flag had no choice but to repeat the request to Wuji. Wuji thought for a moment and said, "It's not a problem to clear the Hurricane Cave, but you have to promise me a few things." Damn, I knew it. Blood Red War Flag's expression darkened. "Just say it." Wuji smiled and said, "First of all, the Abyss is a very dangerous dungeon. We can't guarantee success, but don't worry, we'll definitely do our best." "Okay, I know that." Blood Red War Flag nodded. The danger level of the Abyss was indeed very high. Otherwise, Blood Red War Flag would not have lowered themselves to seek outside help. Although Wuji liked to extort people, he was still trustworthy. Wuji then said, "Secondly, the Blood Alliance will be responsible for our supplies and battle losses in this dungeon. Do you have any objections?" Blood Red War Flag said, "No, not at all. This is our responsibility. Thirdly, we have priority in choosing the items dropped in the dungeon. Of course, the base token is excluded." This Blood Red War Flag hesitated and finally gritted its teeth. Okay. Blood Red War Flag's ultimate goal was the base token. Giving up some equipment was also within Blood Red War Flag's scope. Anything else? Just say it all at once. Blood Red War Flag said impatiently. "Yes, don't be anxious." Wuji paused and said, "Finally, after this dungeon, whether we succeed or not, we need to pay 500 gold. 500 gold. Blood Red War Flag heard this number from Wuji and immediately jumped up. "Why don't you just rob?" Blood Red War Flag pointed at Wuji and said angrily. Wuji smiled faintly and said, "You chairmen all have a F asterisk king line that hasn't changed in 100 years. Extortion is much faster than robbery. Why should we take that risk?" F asterisk CK. Blood Red War Flag was about to cry. Extortion and extortion were all out in the open. He had never seen such a shameless guy. Chapter 219. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. In the game, no matter what item it was, it would follow the market. For example, during the early stages of the game, no guild would have a use for the residence token, so its price would be on the low side, around 500 to 600 gold. However, at that time, the gold exchange rate would be slightly higher. Now that players were about to reach level 20, more and more guilds would be activating residence quests. As a result, the demand for residence tokens skyrocketed. Currently, the market price for residence tokens was around 1,000 gold coins. However, a garrison token was an extremely rare item. Even if one had the money, there was no place to buy it. Each item was worth 1,000 gold coins. Wuji was just helping to clear a dungeon. Whether or not he would succeed was another matter. Yet he dared to ask for 500 gold coins. How could Blood Red War Flag not be angry? However, despite being angry, Blood Red War Flag could not refuse Wuji's offer. Although the price was high, it wasn't ridiculously high. It happened to be the highest price that Blood Red War Flag could offer, which made Blood Red War Flag feel a headache coming on. Wuji was a guy who waited for the right opportunity to make a move. He could always maximize his own benefits. It's just a trivial matter, and you're so fussy. It's only 500 gold coins. Is that a lot to you? Wuji asked with disdain. Indeed, not much. Blood Red War Flag said helplessly. This wasn't a matter of money. Whether it was 1,000 gold coins to buy a token or 500 gold coins to gamble, anyone would hesitate. After all, 500 gold coins wasn't a small amount. Love goes small, say, Nekawuji also guessed Blood Red War Flag's concerns, so he said calmly, "I can tell you that things like garrison tokens are territorial. If you buy a token from the consignment store, it's very likely that the garrison is in another main city. Is that so?" Blood Red War Flag really didn't know about this. "Of course. We have a guild residence in Chuanjin. Why would we lie to you?" Blood Red War Flag. Wuji had inadvertently touched the fragile heart of Blood Red War Flag. Not everyone could bear the feeling of being suppressed by a few dozen people when there were thousands of them. "In Yu Huicheng, apart from us, I don't think anyone can help you," Wuji added. These words caused Blood Red War Flag's expression to change slightly. Indeed, that was only a small dungeon with a dozen or so players. When it came to elite players, which guild dared to say that they could compare to Chuanjin? In the end, Wuji's words made Blood Red War Flag completely relent. "How about this? If we don't get you a garrison token, we'll continue to help you until we get one. How about it?" "Deal." Blood Red War Flag had been waiting for this sentence. No one was willing to bet on something that involved probability. With Wuji's words, Blood Red War Flag felt more confident. "All right, when are we leaving? Let's wait a little longer. There's still 40 minutes left in the dungeon cooldown." Blood Red War Flag said. Loved go small, say, Netka the dungeon cooldown was 20 hours. Yesterday, Blood Red War Flag had brought people to clear the dungeon. "All right, I need to buy some supplies. You can come with me." Wuji revealed a sly smile again, causing Blood Red War Flag's heart to tremble. "All right, as long as you can get me a garrison token, you could do whatever you want. All right, Sister Neo, please prepare the things." Wuji turned his head and said to Mu Zixian. Mu Zixian smiled slightly. "Go ahead. 2 sets of each mixture, 4 sets of torches, 10 sets of antidotes, 10 sets of intermediate health potions." Every time Wuji said something, Blood Red War Flag's face darkened. Damn, other people would ask for these things based on the number, but this guy actually asked for them based on the number of sets. Did he really think he was a fool? What's wrong? Does Blood Red War Flag's heart ache? Wuji saw Blood Red War Flag's expression and asked with a smile. "No, you can continue," Blood Red War Flag said against its will. Wuji said, "That's it for now. If it's not enough, Come back and get more. Blood red war flag. All the supplies added up to nearly 50 gold coins. When it was time to pay, Blood Red War Flag's hands were trembling. It wasn't that Blood Red War Flag was petty and couldn't bear to part with such a small amount of money. It was just that Wuji was too shameless. He was obviously stuffing his own pockets, and Blood Red War Flag couldn't do anything about it. It's just a dungeon. Do we need so many supplies? Wang Yu was an honest person, so he quietly asked his question. I don't think so. Then why did you buy so much? I dungeon every day. I don't need to spend my own money anyway. Wuji said matter-of-factly. You're really shameless. Wang Yu looked down on him. You're the one who's making the money, sacrificing yourself for others. Wuji, you're too great. Wang Yu quickly changed his words. After buying the supplies, the three of them left the city and walked toward Hurricane Cave. Hurricane Cave was a level 20 dungeon. It was located in a level 25 monster area, Venomous Snake Valley. The monsters in Venomous Snake Valley had terrible attack and defense. They were indeed quite difficult to deal with because they could use poison. Moreover, there were three of them. One slowed, one reduced defense, and one lost health. It was really disgusting. Therefore, besides warlocks, very few people were willing to farm here. The reason why warlocks farmed here was because the snakes here dropped rare poisons. Hurricane Cave was at the innermost side of Venomous Snake Valley. In the background story of Rebirth, Lamia Angela was originally the leader of a tribe. Because she didn't believe in the god of light, she was cursed by the god of light and imprisoned in Hurricane Cave. Inside Hurricane Cave were all Angela's people. Outside of Venomous Snake Valley were all Angela's descendants. After reading this background story, Wang Yu's worldview was flipped. He felt more and more that the god of light was not a good person. Belief was something that was voluntary. If others didn't believe in him, he would curse them. What a petty guy. When he arrived at the entrance of Hurricane Cave, the people from Blood Alliance had already been waiting there for a while. Wang Yu knew almost all of these people from Blood Alliance. The Shield Warrior Bird of Paradise, the Weapon Warrior Blood Azura, as well as Blood Dark Knight and Blood Wind Whisperer. Although he didn't know their names, Wang Yu had met them and killed them with his own hands. When these people saw Wang Yu, their expressions were very complicated, especially Bird of Paradise. When it saw Wang Yu, it subconsciously wanted to run away. Fortunately, Bloodwind Whisperer pulled it back. Otherwise, it would have been embarrassing. So President Blood invited others. Do you not trust our studio? At this time, among the three people at the back of the team, a warrior questioned Blood Red War Flag with a displeased expression. These are... Wuji pointed at the three people at the back and asked. These are experts from Xiaobing Studio. I invited them to help. Xiaobing Studio? Wuji raised his eyebrows and said unhappily, You actually got involved with such people. Can't you just find me if you're short of people? Blood Red War Flag laughed and said, Haha, it's great that I can invite you too. There's no need to trouble the others. In fact, Blood Red War Flag was thinking, damn it, I spent more than 500 gold to invite 2 more people. I might as well just buy a token. Chapter 220. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. To provide you with wonderful novels to read. Xiaobing Studio was a very famous group in the circle of professional players. Hardcore players like Wuji had heard of this name before. Love Go Little say Netka this group of people was quite strong, but their reputation wasn't that great. It wasn't a big deal for players to steal monsters, kill people, and loot equipment on a daily basis. However, these people often monopolized the market and drove up the prices. In the past, there have been a few servers in other games that have been turned into ghost zones because of them, causing many people to have a bad impression of them. One had to know that reputation was the most important thing for a studio. This studio could be considered a weirdo in the industry. As for why the people from Blood Red War Flag hired them, Wuji did not ask because the reputation of the people from Chuanjin was not much better than these guys. It was just that the people from Chuanjin were there to play the game, while the people from Xiaobing Studio were there to destroy the game. This was the most essential difference. For their own interests, they did not hesitate to destroy the whole world. No wonder even Wuji looked down on them. Wuji's words caused the people from Xiaobing Studio to be dissatisfied. The guy called Waning Moon Frost pointed at Wuji and said angrily, "Who are you? If you don't like it, we can fight." Seeing that Waning Moon Frost was so angry, Blood Red War Flag quickly came out to mediate. "This is the leader of Chuanjin, Wuji. Everyone, please give me some face. If there's anything, we can talk about it after clearing the dungeon." Chuanjin? Waning Moon Frost was stunned when she heard Blood Red War Flag's words. She looked at Wuji and Wang Yu with a look of disbelief. Love, go, little, say, Netkuei person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. Chuanjin was very famous in Yuhuicheng. Even the people from Xiaobing Studio could not help but worry when they heard that these two people were from Chuanjin. Hence, Waning Moon Frost said to Blood Red War Flag, I'll give face to the leader this time." Wu Ji sneered, "If you're afraid, just say it." "What face?" "Old blood, let me tell you, with people like them dragging us down, we might not be able to pass this instance. Don't go too far." Before Wu Ji could finish, the other two people from Xiaobing Studio immediately became angry. Blood Red War Flag was also very unhappy with Wu Ji's actions. Wu Ji had already taken advantage of the situation, yet Blood Red War Flag was still mocking him. Bloody Wind Whisper quickly came over and said, "Boss Wu Ji, I see, and the others were actually invited by me. They are quite strong, and their studio has the best potions on the market. They will be a great help to us in this dungeon." Replenishing potions was undoubtedly one of the most important conditions when doing instance dungeons. Good potions were priceless, and Xiaobing's workshop had plenty of potions. The reason why Bloody Wind Whisper had invited these guys was because they had taken a fancy to their potions. "Oh, what good potions do you have? Let me see." Wuji smiled and asked Waning Moon Frost. Waning Moon Frost could not be bothered with Wuji. "Intermediate recovery potion." Blood Red Wind Whisper said softly. "Huh." Wuji laughed and shook his head. "I thought it was something good. So it's intermediate recovery potion. Why? Do you have this potion too?" Waning Moon Frost asked provocatively. "I have as many as you want." Wuji took out a set of potions and waved them in front of everyone. The people from Xiaobing Studio were stunned when they saw the potions in Wuji's hand. "No, impossible. We sell these potions at retail. How do you have so many?" Xiaobing Studio was a professional player group. Their main job was to buy high-grade goods in the market and implement a monopoly policy. Intermediate recovery potion was one of them. Currently, only Yu Huicheng produced intermediate recovery potions. The people from Xiaobing Studio stared at the consignment shop every day. Once they saw an intermediate recovery potion on the shelves, they would buy it all and sell it at a high price. In order to maintain the price of the intermediate recovery potion, the people from Xiaobing Studio chose to sell it at retail to various main cities. Li Shui's daily production of potions was only around 100 bottles. Other than the ones she gave to Chuanjin, there were only around 50 to 60 bottles at the consignment shop. There were 300 main cities in the game. On average, there was less than 1 bottle per day in each city. This was enough to show how precious and rare this potion was. Blood Red Wind Whisper was also shocked. "No way, Boss Wuji, are those really intermediate recovery potions?" Blood Red Wind Whisper often bought supplies for Blood Alliance. He was very clear about the rarity of intermediate recovery potions. At the moment, the players didn't even have a set of these potions. Even great experts only had a few bottles to protect themselves. Some players had only heard of it. "Didn't Blood Rose tell you where these potions came from?" Wuji glanced at Blood Red Wind Whisper. "Rose, she left." Blood Red Wind Whisper murmured. Wuji's face darkened. He naturally knew why Blood Rose left. Blood Red War Flag said, "Sigh, this potion is actually produced in Chuanjin." Boss, are you kidding?" Blood Red Wind Whisper said. The people from Xiaobing Studio were even more shocked. They never would have thought that the product they were most proud of came from this annoying guy in front of them. "If I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe it either. Now that the grocery store in the south of the city has been taken over, they sell this. There's a lot of it, and it's cheap." Blood Red War Flag said truthfully. "But Where did Chuanjin get their life profession experts? Blood Red Wind Whisper still didn't understand. In the game, as long as one was an expert, their life profession level would definitely be very pitiful. The strength of the people from Chuanjin was obvious to all. No matter how one looked at it, they didn't look like people who had the time to farm life professions. This Blood Red Warflag's face turned even uglier. He glared at Bird of Paradise and said, "Do you still remember Edelweiss and the other three? They're now in Chuanjin. These potions were made by those 4 girls." The people from Blood Alliance were silent, and they all stared at Bird of Paradise. Bird of Paradise lowered its head in shame, and it almost stuffed its head into its pants. Dawn Moon's expression changed when she heard the conversation between Blood Red Warflag and Blood Red Wind Whisper. Of course, Dawn Moon's Ice knew why Blood Red Wind Whisper had invited them over. Although there weren't many experts who had advanced, it was still possible to gather more than 10 of them. The only value of Xiaobing's studio here was that it could provide potions. However, now that the source of the potions was here, there was no point for them to stay any longer. Thinking of this, Dawn Moon's Ice walked over and said, "Brother Wind Whisper, if that's the case, we'll leave first." Chapter 2:21. Genius 1, Second Remember Love, Go Away, to provide you with exciting novels to read. Let's go. Blood Red Wind Whisper's attitude towards Waning Moon's chill started to become worse. Blood Red Warflag trusted Blood Red Wind Whisper, which was why he was in charge of purchasing supplies. After hearing what Blood Red Warflag said, Blood Red Wind Whisper realized that the price of Waning Moon's chill was much higher than the normal price. It was normal for professional players to buy low and sell high, but for them to monopolize the market and make huge profits, it was a little annoying, especially since Blood Red Warflag had personally exposed this matter. Even if Blood Red Wind Whisperer was innocent, this kind of thing had happened to him. How could Blood Red Wind Whisperer have a good attitude towards Waning Moon's chill? "We don't have enough people now. Should I call a few of our guild members over?" Hurricane Cave Abyss originally required 15 people. After Waning Moon's group of 3 left, there were 3 less people. Blood Red Warflag quickly declined. No need to trouble them. Our guild has people." In just a short while, Blood Red Warflag found 3 Blood Alliance experts to replenish the team's energy. Hurricane Cave, as the name suggested, was a very large underground cave. No one knew where the end of the cave led to. Gusts of wind blew, causing everyone to shiver. System notification: you have been poisoned by snake venom. Your HP is decreasing by 2 per second. This is a debuff, don't worry. Blood Red Warflag turned his head and said to Wuji and Wang Yu. Neither of them paid attention to him. Wang Yu had automatic HP recovery equipment, so this debuff was useless. Wuji was a closed beta player, so he must have seen this before. The lighting in the Hurricane Cave was very dim. Wuji carefully took out his spectacles and placed them on the bridge of his nose. The team didn't advance far before 2 waves of monsters came into view. Krite LV32, Elite Skills, Bite, Venom Krite, LV35, Elite Skills, Bite, Venom. Spawn. There were a total of 12 monsters in the 2 waves, and they were gathered not far away, lying on the left and right. After seeing these snake monsters, Blood Red Warflag began to issue commands with ease. Wind Whisper, Drifting Soul, lure the wave of many banded Krites from the 10 o'clock direction. We'll slowly kill our way over. Bloody Soul was a mage from the Blood Alliance who had advanced to become a mage. He was also one of the core members of the Blood Alliance, and his strength was not to be underestimated. The 2 of them received the order. One of them knocked an arrow while the other began to cast a spell. Wuji laughed coldly and said, "Old Blood, the monsters in this map are all poison-type monsters, so the consumption of potions will definitely be high. If you continue fighting like this, I'm afraid you'll run out of potions before you even get to the first boss. Don't fight first. Boss Wuji, do you have any brilliant ideas?" After hearing Wuji's words, Blood Red Warflag hurriedly stopped Bloody Wind Whisperer and Bloody Soul's attacks and asked Wuji. Wuji was right. Blood Red War Flag had already brought people to this dungeon yesterday. The poison of the monsters here was too annoying, and they also had a debuff that reduced health. They had to have potions ready at all times, and once the cooldown was over, they had to drink them. As a result, the consumption of potions was quite shocking. When they reached the first boss, everyone's endurance was not enough, and they could only watch helplessly as they were wiped. "Go around," Wuji said. "Go around? How?" Blood Red War Flag asked in surprise. Hurricane Cave was just a cave, so it was definitely not as spacious as the Scarlet Church. It was not easy to go around the two waves of monsters and directly attack the boss. Hee. Wuji laughed and said, "The aggro range of the elite monsters in the dungeon is 450 yards. The walls of this cave are parallel to each other. I just measured the width of the cave, and it is a total of 940 yards. There is a safe distance of 40 yards between the two waves of monsters, so we can go around them from a safe distance." Blood Red War Flag curled its lips and said, "Boss Wuji, what's the difference between that and not saying anything?" 40 yards, or 4 meters, was the width of a normal person's body. In other words, everyone would have to turn their bodies to the side and pass by the two waves of monsters outside their aggro range. Although the walls of the cave were parallel, the cave was not a straight line. As everyone knew, when the cave was curved, the position of a safe distance of 40 yards could change at any time. Even in the game, without a ruler as a reference, no one could guarantee that they would be able to measure the distance with their naked eyes. Wuji was simply messing around. "There's a difference. If you follow behind me, you could go around them. If you follow behind you, you will be attacked by the monsters," Wuji said calmly, not giving any face to Blood Red War Flag. Blood Red War Flag's face turned red, and then said, "Okay, we'll do as you say. Anyway, with Nyogu here, those monsters won't be able to do anything." Blood Red War Flag turned its head and said to Wang Yu. Wang Yu smiled and stood behind Wuji. "As long as we follow Wuji, we'll be fine." Blood Red War Flag was stunned and couldn't help but look at Wuji again. "Put away your weapons and follow me," Wuji said as he took the lead. Everyone formed a line and followed closely behind. After walking for about 7 or 8 meters, Wuji suddenly stopped and drew a line on the ground with his feet, saying, "Everyone, before crossing this line, make sure to turn sideways." After saying that, Wuji turned sideways and moved forward step by step. Everyone followed closely behind until everyone crossed the area horizontally. The monsters on both sides did not move at all. "Damn, Boss Wuji, this is amazing." Blood Red War Flag was the last to pass through the monster area, and then shouted in shock. Blood Red War Flag's shock was definitely from the bottom of its heart. To be able to use one's eyes to measure the distance, and to do it accurately, this was not something that an ordinary person could do. Hee. Wuji laughed and said, "I think it's better for me to command from now on. What do you think, Boss Blood Red?" This Blood Red War Flag hesitated for a moment, then said, "Okay, Boss Wuji, you will definitely be better at commanding than me." The Blood Red War Flag was completely convinced by Wuji's display just now. Although Wuji wasn't well-liked, his strength was truly terrifying. It was no wonder that the Quanjin sect had so many experts, yet the sect leader was him. After Blood Red War Flag gave the command to Wuji, the team continued forward, and soon, the team arrived at the habitat of the first boss. In this scene, the snake monsters were not in groups like before. The snake monsters here were scattered, curled up on the ground alone. As long as everyone took a step forward, the whole area would be affected, and the monsters in the area would rush over. "Boss Wuji, do we go around this as well?" Blood Red War Flag rubbed its hands and asked Wuji. At this moment, Blood Red War Flag wanted to directly pass through the monsters in front of them and force Lamia Angela away. "You're thinking too much." Wuji glanced at Blood Red War Flag. Chapter 222. Genius 1 Second. Remember if you want to go. Showa Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. The system was not a fool. How could it design such a brainless instance dungeon? The distribution of snake monsters in this scene was clearly designed to target opportunistic players. Then what should we do? The blood-red war flag was just saying it. He was a veteran expert. So how could he not see that the distribution of the snake monsters was fishy? Moreover, Blood Alliance had reached here yesterday. Because of the distribution of monsters here, they forcefully started a wave of attacks and used up all their supplies. In the end, they weren't able to defeat the boss. One wave, Wuji said calmly. One wave. Blood-red war flag was a little disappointed. He thought that if he gave a command to Wuji, Wuji would have some good ideas. In the end, it was still the same as his strategy. Wuji said, with the way the monsters are distributed, there's no other way but to send a wave of them. The only thing we can change is our formation. Group formation? Are there any tactics in a single wave? Blood-red war flag asked curiously. A group fight was a group fight. It was the most unskillful way of fighting. They had never heard of a group fight with any tricks. If our Chuanja members were here, these trash monsters would definitely be crushed. But you guys, if you don't use tactics, it will definitely be impossible. Wuji was always attracting hatred for him. The people from Blood Alliance weren't pushovers. Now that they were being mocked by Wuji, their faces and necks turned red. However, when they saw Wang Yu standing beside Wuji, they could only swallow their anger. Love, go small, say, Neku, F asterisk CK your arrogance. Isn't it just an expert? I don't believe you'll be able to do anything in one go. Bloody Azura shouted in the guild channel. That's right. When he's alone, I'll stab him 8 to 10 times. Blood Knight roared. The others all agreed, killing Wuji many times in the guild channel. This caused the other Blood Alliance players to be confused, asking, what's going on? There's an idiot in the team. Then why don't you guys scold him in the team channel? Everyone, this blood-red war flag coughed and said, Boss Wuji, how should we fight this group? Wuji pointed to a corner not far away and said, do you see that corner? Everyone, stand in an inverted 5 formation and stick close to the wall. The 5-5 formation was known as the cone formation in the game, also known as the cone formation. This formation required a minimum of 15 players. The formation was arranged in 5 rows, with a number of players arranged from front to back as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The first 2 rows were for the main tank and sub-tank, while the back rows were for the healers and damage dealers. This formation was usually used in guild battles. When facing a phalanx formation, it could be used to tear it apart. It was a great advantage. 55 formation? Deal with the snakes? You must have had too much to drink. The Blood Shura shouted. A 1 to 5 formation was always successful in PvP, but in PvE, these non-humanoid monsters did not have the intelligence to set up a formation. Using a 1 to 5 formation was useless against them. It's inverted 5, understand? If you have low IQ, don't talk. Stand in front and be a tank. Wuji glared at the Blood Shura and placed him in the front row. In the team, there were 2 shield bearers, 1 weapon bearer, and 1 paladin. When everyone heard Wuji's words, they quickly went to the front row. Paladin, come back! As soon as Blood-Red War flag was in position, Wuji called him back and then said with disdain, with your long arms, why are you standing so close to the front? Stand in the middle of the second row with Iron Ox. Blood-Red War flag held back his curiosity and stood in the second row with his head lowered. You 4 thieves, stand on both sides of the first and second row. Use the people next to you as a reference and move back half a step. Letting the thieves stand in the front row was quite ridiculous. Although everyone had their doubts, in order not to be looked down upon by Wuji, they silently chose to obey. Wuji wanted to take the opportunity to mock everyone, but everyone ignored him. He felt bored and could only continue to arrange the others. 2 mages and an archer were in the third row, and the 2 priests of Blood Alliance were in the fourth row. Wuji was also a priest, so he arranged himself in the corner at the back. After Wuji finished arranging the formation, everyone finally saw the legendary inverted 5 formation. Although the 5 people in the front row stood in a row, because the thieves were at the back, they did not fight in a straight line. Instead, they stood in an arc. No one could guess what Wuji's intentions were, but the 2 thieves in the front row felt a sense of security. It was unprecedented for the thieves in the front row to feel a sense of security. Everyone is in position. Does anyone have any doubts? If not, let's start. Wuji said. Blood Shura saw that Wuji had arranged for him to be the main tank in the middle and said with a bitter face, Boss Wuji, you didn't do it on purpose, did you? I really didn't mean to offend you. Wuji said calmly, Brother Shura, don't worry and fight the monsters. Am I the kind of person who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance? Don't worry. With me here, it'll be hard for you to die. But if you say any more nonsense, I can easily kill you. Wuji threatened. Blood Shura quickly shut up and cursed in his heart. F***CK, you still dare to say that you're not the kind who will seek revenge for the smallest grievance? After the formation was in place, Bloodwind Whisper shot an arrow at the head of a Krite under Wuji's command. One snake was aggroed, and all the other snakes surrounded it. As soon as the two sides exchanged blows, everyone immediately felt the advantage of this inverted 5 formation. As everyone was standing in the corner, the inverted 5 formation effectively protected the backline damage dealers in the terrain. Only the 5 in the front row were actually fighting the snakes. No, it was 3. After another 2 rounds, everyone finally realized the brilliance of Wuji's arrangement. Although the 2 thieves at the front were standing in the front row, they were one body behind the tanks beside them. Therefore, when the snakes attacked, the 2 shield bearers could always block them effectively, and then they could take the opportunity to deal a burst of damage. The monsters in this dungeon were all monsters with low health and low defense, which was very suitable for high-burst professions like thieves. With the protection of the 2 shield bearers, the 4 thieves took turns to attack, and the damage output was very impressive. In the second row, Wang Yu had a long staff in his hand, and Blood Red Warflag's weapon was a spear. Both of them had a relatively wide attack range. The 2 of them could help the tanks in the front row kill the monsters, and, at the same time, protect the thieves beside them. It was a perfect combination of offense and defense. The mages and archers in the third row were tightly protected, and they could deal damage freely. The last 3 priests, because of the effectiveness of this formation, did not have much pressure. Each of them just had to take care of tank. 1 tank and 1 priest. What a luxurious formation. Under Wuji's care, Blood Shura faced the snakes head-on, and his health did not drop below 50%. He swung his whirlwind slash like a windmill and shouted excitedly, annoying everyone. Wuji even thought of killing him. Chapter 223. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Talk.net, providing you with exciting novels to read. Under Wuji's inverted 5 formation, they quickly cleared out the snakes in front of them. After clearing out the snakes, the Blood Alliance members were still in shock. If not for the snake corpses on the ground, they wouldn't have believed that they were the ones who killed the snakes. One had to know that when the Blood Alliance members were clearing this dungeon yesterday, they had to expend a lot of effort to deal with these poisonous snakes. There were even a few times when they were almost wiped out. This time, only 2 people changed their formation, but they passed without any injuries. What surprised everyone the most was that he didn't even use any consumables this time. Thinking about it, Wang Yu was only in the second row to support the damage output. Wuji's healing was about the same as the other 2 clerics. Compared to yesterday's formation, they didn't have much of a chance. However, because of this formation, the difference between the 2 times they killed monsters was so huge. The Blood Alliance members who were unsatisfied with Wuji now looked at Wuji with respect. As expected from the guild leader of Chuanjin, he had his own methods. However, Wuji said to Wang Yu with disdain, "This bunch of useless ***starts. If it was us Chuanjin members, we wouldn't need to go through so much trouble." Wang Yu nodded his head. Yes, it must have been hard on them. Hearing the conversation between the 2, the respect that the Blood Alliance members had for Wuji disappeared. Condescending. What the hell is this? After clearing out the snakes, everyone walked forward and arrived in front of the first boss. This boss looked really ugly. It had the head of a snake and the body of a human. It was covered in armor, and it held a spear in its hand. It spat out its tongue and looked at everyone angrily. Are you the ones who are killing my people? System notification. You have triggered the dungeon quest, Python disaster. Kill Viper General J0/1. Reward 25% dungeon completion. Viper General J LV35. Gold Boss HP 500000 MP. 20,000 skills. Triple strike, sweep, stab, hell, snake defense. Looking at the introduction, Viper General was a warrior-type boss. His skills made Wanyu happy. He didn't have a unique poison attacks of snake-type monsters, so he should be easy to deal with. Blood Red War Flag looked at this guy and said with fear, "This boss isn't easy to deal with." "He looks like a noob," Wanyu muttered to herself. "Look, weak?" The Blood Alliance members exclaimed, as expected from God Iron Bull. "Even the boss is nothing." Blood Red War Flag quickly said, "Brother Ox, don't underestimate this boss. His attacks ignore defense. Tanks can't withstand his attacks at all." Wanyu laughed. "If you can't take it, you can just dodge. No wonder Wuji always says you are stupid." Everyone turned their heads and glared at Wuji. Wuji shrugged helplessly. Although everyone vented their anger on Wuji, they were even more dissatisfied with Wang Yu's words. Dodge? What nonsense! That boss had a spear in his hand. With a sweep, there was no blind spot within a range of 650 yards. Everything would be dealt damage. How could they dodge? Seeing everyone's expressions, Wuji knew that Blood Red War Flag wouldn't be able to get these people to help. However, this boss was indeed quite disgusting. It ignored defense. Didn't that mean that the shield bearer's heavy armor was all for nothing? Without defense, Blood Red War Flag wouldn't be able to handle the boss's attacks. In a dungeon, if the tank couldn't handle it, there was only one outcome, and that was a team wipe. Boss Wuji, you have to think of something. Didn't we agree before? 500 gold until we clear the dungeon. Blood Red War Flag walked over and said, 500 gold. Blood Red War Flag said it very clearly. He didn't forget to remind Wuji that the two of them were hired by them for 500 gold. They couldn't just slack off with the team. Otherwise, the 500 gold would be a waste. Looks like we have to help. Wuji sighed and whispered to Wang Yu, "Old cow, can you pull this guy?" "I'll give a try," Wang Yu replied and walked towards the Viper General. Nyogo, where are you going?" Seeing Wang Yu walk forward alone, Blood Red War Flag was confused. "Pull the boss." Wang Yu's reply was simple and powerful. "Pull the boss?" Everyone from Blood Alliance was stunned. It wasn't that there weren't any Grandmasters of Combat as tanks, but without exception, all of them added points into strength and stamina and wore heavy armor. As for Wang Yu, he had high speed and high attack. One look, and they could tell that he added points in his strength and agility. Moreover, Wang Yu didn't even have any decent clothes. Sky Silkworm armor was like a vest. Wasn't he looking to die if he went to tank alone? Although they knew that Wang Yu was very strong, they were facing a boss, a high-level boss that ignored defense. With Wang Yu's little health, no matter how strong he was, he could still be killed in one hit. Seeing Wang Yu do this, the tanks of Blood Alliance turned red. He actually forced a Grandmaster of Combat to tank a monster. They were too useless as tanks. "Boss Ironox, can you tank it? If not, let me." Other than Bird of Paradise, the other shield warrior called Blood Great Wall said softly. Wang Yu laughed. "You think you're stronger than me? This isn't a question of whether I'm stronger or not. I have a lot of health and can take at least 2 or 3 hits. With your health, you can at most take 1 hit." Blood Great Wall explained. "Why'd I have to take a hit?" Wang Yu asked in confusion. "Why not? Just dodge it." Wang Yu mentioned dodging the boss's attacks again. Blood Great Wall was speechless. He said helplessly, "Okay, you're the god. You have the final say." Blood Great Wall didn't want to argue with this kind of person. As they spoke, Wang Yu had already stepped into the aggro range of the Viper General. The Viper General roared and shook its hands, stabbing towards Wang Yu's body. The Viper General's spear struck 3 times at lightning speed, stabbing towards Wang Yu's lower abdomen, chest, and finally, upwards. Its target was Wang Yu's head. Wang Yu jumped back 3 times, dodging the Viper General's 3 consecutive strikes. At the same time, he could not help but exclaim, "Not bad, not bad." The Viper General lived up to its name. All of its attacks were the most ferocious on the battlefield. The 3 strikes seemed simple, but the more concise the attack, the more effective and dangerous it was. The Viper General's first strike was aimed at the lower abdomen. If the target was hit, they would definitely bend over. Then, the second strike would be aimed at the throat, and the final strike would be powerful enough to cut off the target's head. Fortunately, the Viper General's opponent was a martial arts expert like Wang Yu. When faced with life-threatening danger, he would habitually dodge first. He would only choose to block if he couldn't dodge. If it were an ordinary player, they would definitely choose to take these 3 strikes head-on. With the Viper General's current attributes, there was probably no player at the current stage of the game who could withstand its 3 strikes. He actually dodged it. Blood Great Wall's jaw dropped to the ground as he stared at the scene in front of him. Chapter 2:24. Genius 1 second. Remember if you want to go. Talk about the net, providing you with exciting novels to read. Dodging wasn't an unfamiliar term in online games. In normal online games, there are 3 ways to dodge. One was skill evasion, such as rolling, flashing, and similar skills that could be used to dodge the enemy's attack. This type of dodging focused on the player's skill release. Under normal circumstances, as long as one's reaction was fast enough, one could complete the dodging action. The other was the chance to dodge. For example, if you wore special equipment, you could cause the enemy to miss when attacking the player. This kind of mode was completely up to fate. If you were lucky, you could kill the monster without taking any damage. If you were unlucky, the chance to dodge was just for show. The last type was dodging, relying on fancy movements to dodge the target's attack. This required a higher level of skill. Players who could dodge were basically professional esports players, so there were very few people who could actually use this type of dodging technique. Under the holographic simulation, most of the rules in the game were still in accordance with reality. The probability of dodging was naturally removed. Because of this, the only dodging techniques that players could use in battle were skill evasion and movement evasion. Dodging skills in Rebirth were very precious, and among the 7 classes, only archers had dodging skills. Therefore, if players wanted to effectively dodge in battle, they could only rely on movement. Movement evasion was already an extremely high-level skill in online games. Not to mention, this was a holographic simulation world. Everyone was immersed in the game, and their skills were equivalent to the system support. Without the system support, very few people could effectively dodge in battle, let alone dodge the boss's attack. Wang Yu had fought with Blood Alliance several times before. Most of the Blood Alliance's impression of Wang Yu was that he could insta-kill people, run extremely fast, and jump onto roofs. Those who had fought with him before, such as Blood Whisperer, knew that Wang Yu could catch arrows with his bare hands, and that he could go into stealth, but no one noticed that their attacks basically couldn't hit Wang Yu. After all, Wang Yu had always insta-killed people. Blood Alliance didn't have anyone who could last one round against Wang Yu. Hence, when the Blood Alliance members saw how Wang Yu easily dodged the Viper General's attack, they all revealed looks of disbelief. The Viper General was difficult to deal with not only because of its defense break, but also because of the short duration of its other skills. Wang Yu jumped back and landed on the ground. The Viper General grabbed the spear with both hands and thrust it forward. Wang Yu calmly shifted his body to the side and dodged the sudden stab. The Viper General waved its arm and swept horizontally, drawing a large circle around itself. Wang Yu leaped onto the Viper Warrior's head the instant the Viper Warrior swept its body. Eagle Stomp followed by Thunder Stomp. Wang Yu stomped on the Viper Warrior's head 4 times in a row, stunning the Viper Warrior. Attack him! Seeing that the Viper General was stunned, Wuji hurriedly gave the order to attack. Everyone rushed forward and attacked the Viper General. The stun only lasted for 5 seconds. Before everyone could disperse, the Viper General woke up. Without even panting, it expressionlessly raised its spear and used triple strike. This was the shamelessness of a system mode boss. Its actions were completely illogical and mechanical. If Wang Yu dodged it this time, he would definitely die. Helpless, he spread his arms, and his gloves turned into a staff. Wang Yu used her parry skill and activated air domination. She then used her staff to block the Great Viper General's spear. With a slight twist of her staff, she diverted the force of the attack. As if someone had pushed the Great Viper General, it did not manage to use its other two attacks, its spear stabbing into the ground. To Wang Yu's delight, he discovered that the Viper General's attacks could break through defense, but not parry. Thinking about it, the system couldn't possibly create an undefeatable boss. When normal players fought bosses, they would mindlessly use their shields to test the boss. The two shield bearers from the Blood Alliance didn't even have time to use parry and were instantly killed by the boss. So they didn't notice this characteristic. Constantly dodging while fighting a boss was extremely taxing on one's mind. Even a martial arts expert like Wang Yu would feel tired after maintaining a focused state for a long time. However, after discovering this characteristic of the boss, everything became much easier. After the Viper General pulled out its spear from the ground, it once again stabbed at Wang Yu. Wang Yu grabbed one end of the staff and flicked it upwards, drawing an arc in the air. With a light tap, he knocked the Viper General's spear off course. The Viper General seemed to have lost control. It raised its spear and stabbed at the top of Wang Yu's head. At the same time, Wang Yu lowered his head, grabbed the staff with both hands, and fiercely swung it at the Viper General's feet. Under the inertia, the Viper General lost its balance and fell to the ground. Wuji gave the order to attack again. Everyone surrounded the Viper General and gave it another round of attacks. A boss in system mode wouldn't be as realistic as a boss in manual mode after being knocked down. It wouldn't even know how to hold its head and retreat after being attacked. The Viper General followed the system's roguish tradition. As if it had activated super armor, it forcefully stood up under everyone's attacks. It aimed at Wang Yu and raised its spear to stab. Wang Yu didn't dodge. Using his staff to knock away the Viper General's spear, he smashed it into the Viper General's chest. The Viper General's body, which was charging forward, swayed slightly. Wang Yu took the opportunity to get close to the Viper General. He stretched out his arms, grabbed the Viper General, and tripped it, causing it to fall to the ground. Everyone took turns attacking the Viper General. This was the best way to deal with a brainless boss. As long as you found the right method, no matter how many times you used it, the boss would still dive into the trap. Under Wang Yu's roguish control, all of the Viper General's powerful attack skills were useless. No matter how strong its attack was, it was useless if it couldn't hit its target. The Viper General fell again and again, but got back up again and again. It had a total of 500,000 HP, but under everyone's attacks, it quickly fell to 30%. Dodge, it's about to transform. Wuji commanded as he retreated out of the Viper General's attack range. Everyone knew that most bosses in the boss would transform when they reached 30% HP. Therefore, as soon as Wuji gave the order, everyone fled. The Viper General's body flashed with a golden light as it activated super armor. Wang Yu raised his hand and used Tiger Strike, intending to break the Viper General's super armor. However, when Wang Yu's attack landed on the Viper General, a ripple appeared on its body, and a -1 appeared above its head. What's going on? Wang Yu was shocked. He had never encountered such a situation before. Chapter 225. Genius in 1 second. Remember Love Go? Talk.net, providing you with exciting novels to read. Wang Yu had fought quite a few bosses on a daily basis. Due to the manual mode, most bosses' defense was practically useless against Wang Yu. Love Go Small Talk.net, only a boss with a full body of armor could slightly restrain Wang Yu. However, no matter how high the defense was, with Wang Yu's high skill completion, he could still deal significant damage. Even if a Nian boss activated Dusk Guardian, a single punch from Wang Yu would still deal a few dozen damage. This Viper General was too strange. It did not have much armor, and Wang Yu's attacks were aimed at its vitals. Yet, he only managed to deal 1 damage. This was something that Wang Yu had never encountered before. This is forced damage. Apart from Wang Yu, Everyone else was a veteran player. When they saw this scene, they immediately made a judgment and used Detect on the Viper General's head. As expected, the Viper General had an additional status called Nether Serpent's Firm. Wang Yu's attack did not work. The Viper General picked up its spear and stabbed at Wang Yu. Wang Yu hurriedly dodged and swung his staff, smashing it into the Viper General's head. -1. This ridiculing number floated up again. The Viper General was only slightly taken aback before it used Triple Strike. Wang Yu raised his staff to block and dispel the attack. Although it was not a big deal, Wang Yu discovered that not only had the Viper General's defense increased significantly, but even its strength had increased. The Viper General's strength was so great that Wang Yu's dispel did not have any effect. Instead, he was sent flying. -624 under block. Wang Yu's HP of more than 1,000 was instantly reduced by more than half. Wu Ji hurriedly cast several heals on Wang Yu's head, restoring Wang Yu's HP. The others also took the opportunity to attack. The results were the same. Both magical and physical attacks only dealt -1 damage to the Viper Warrior. The Blood Alliance members were in despair. The Viper General had close to 50,000 HP. If they continued fighting like this, wouldn't they be fighting until tomorrow morning? Wu Ji said calmly, "Don't panic. There's no such thing as an unsolvable boss. This guy must have a weakness. Everyone, look around and see if there are any suspicious terrains." Terrain? When everyone heard this, they hurriedly looked around, but the scene in this shabby place was the same. It was just a cave, and there was nothing strange about it. That's impossible. Could the weakness be the boss's body? Wu Ji mumbled. He then asked Wang Yu, "Can you hold on?" "I can hold on." Wang Yu's staff was in a defensive stance, and he was able to utilize his control circle to its fullest extent, firmly trapping the Viper General within the control circle. One player and one monster, one could attack but couldn't, and the other could attack but couldn't. Neither could do anything to the other. When the Blood Alliance members saw Wang Yu's ferocious use of his staff, even causing the boss to cry out in pain, they could not help but be dumbfounded. While they were shocked, they suddenly felt a sense of balance in their hearts. Holy **T. Is this guy cheating? I can't believe I actually fought against such a monster. Including the Bird of Paradise, those who had been killed by Wang Yu all clicked their tongues. Those who had not been beaten by Wang Yu mocked. Nonsense, don't flatter yourself. You guys are just beaten, okay? **CK. Even the boss is being tortured by him. It's not embarrassing for us to be beaten by him. Blood Red War Flag said from the side. When Wu Ji heard this, he was speechless. It was not embarrassing to be tortured by someone else. The Blood Alliance really knew how to get back at him. Can we try to fight it in close combat? Wu Ji asked Wang Yu. Wang Yu also knew that the rod was useless against the Viper Warrior, so he decided to just defend and not attack. The rod was only able to block the Viper Warrior's spear and was unable to hit the Viper Warrior's body. Close combat. Yes, there is no terrain that counters it. Its weakness should be on its body, Wu Ji said. Okay. Wang Yu nodded and appeared behind the Viper General in a flash. The Viper General immediately used a sweeping attack, but Wang Yu leaped and dodged the sweeping attack. He then punched the back of the Viper General's head. The Viper General's body swayed slightly, and it turned its spear around and aimed at Wang Yu. In midair, Wang Yu quickly switched weapons. One long and one short sword appeared in his hands. Wang Yu quickly thrust out his long sword and used the gauntlet to block the spear. He then used the force to flip and dodge the Viper General's attack. He then used Thunder Stomp on the Viper General's face. The Viper General's strength and physique were significantly improved after being buffed by Nether Serpent's Firm. Wang Yu's Thunder Stomp on the Viper General's face did not cause it to be pushed back. However, because the long sword in Wang Yu's hand had blocked the Viper General's spear, the Viper General's attack paused for a moment. Taking advantage of this pause, Wang Yu charged forward and stabbed the Viper General's temple with his short sword. Snakes don't have temples, right? It's that position. -1 again. Wang Yu sighed. The Viper General had already reacted. It swung its spear and wanted to fling Wang Yu away. Wang Yu extended his left hand and blocked the Viper General's spear with his short sword. Taking advantage of the Viper General's pause, Wang Yu stabbed the Viper General's throat with his long sword. 1 F***CK. Wang Yu was also stubborn. Since his two attacks did not work, he decided to go all out with the Viper General. He alternated between attacking and defending with his two swords. Every round, Wang Yu would stab a vital point of the Viper General. At this time, the others also attacked the Viper General, hoping to find a vital point. 5 minutes passed. From top to bottom, the group attacked all the vital points of the Viper General, including its eyes and lower body. However, without exception, all the attacks landed on the Viper General's body. F***CK, you've tried everything. Did you make a mistake? Wang Yu asked Wuji. No way. Is this boss really unbeatable? Did you hit the back of his neck? Wuji asked Wang Yu. Wang Yu said with disdain, hit the back of his neck? The back of a human's neck doesn't have a fatal acupuncture point. You're an amateur. Hearing this, Wuji's eyes lit up. Are you sure he's human? Huh, that's right. Hearing Wuji's words, Wang Yu also reacted. This was a F***king snake. Although it walked upright and had the body of a human, it was still a snake. After fighting with this fellow for so long, Shifeng had actually started to think of it as a humanoid NPC. As the saying went, hit the snake's weak spot. Humans did not have any vital points on the back of their neck, but it was different for snakes. Who knew? Maybe the snake's weak spot was on the back of its neck. Thinking up to this point, Wang Yu stopped the Viper General's weapon, turned around, and moved behind the Viper General. With a slash of his sword, he cut open the Viper General's clothes, revealing its scaly body. Just below the Viper General's neck and shoulder, Wang Yu saw a red area the size of a bowl. It's here, Wang Yu shouted and stabbed with his sword. Chapter 226. Genius in 1 Second. Remember Love Go. We provide you with exciting novels to read. 4215, a huge golden number appeared above the Viper Warrior's head. Critical hit. Roar. The Viper Warrior roared in pain and swept its spear over. Wang Yu pressed down on the Viper Warrior's shoulder with one hand and leaped high into the air, dodging the sweeping spear. She then pulled out the sword from the Viper Warrior's body and thrust the two swords, one long and one short, into the red area. 6215-8145 under the continuous attacks. The damage became higher and higher. The Viper Warrior waved its spear wildly to protect itself. This boss was too strong, so Wang Yu didn't dare to take it head-on. She could only switch to her staff and jump in front of the Viper General, sticking to it from the front. The four thieves from Blood Alliance took this opportunity to run behind the Viper General and stab at the red area. Thieves had bonus attack power when attacking from the back. With four thieves attacking at the same time, the damage was quite impressive. The Viper Warrior was stuck in front of Wang Yu and had no time to worry about its back. After a few exchanges, it was taken down by the four thieves. At the same time, everyone received the quest Anaconda Calamity. After everyone saved their dungeon progress, they went to the boss's corpse and prepared to loot the equipment. However, the Blood Alliance members didn't start looting. Instead, they looked at Wang Yu and Wuji. Back then, Wuji and Blood Red War Flag had agreed that they would only have priority in choosing the equipment. They didn't say who would loot the equipment. However, the Blood Alliance members were still very sensible and left the looting opportunity to Wang Yu and Wuji. There was no helping it. The strength that the two had displayed had won everyone's respect. Running a dungeon relied 30% on luck and 70% on leadership. Under Wuji's command, they relied on their formation and fought a perfect wave of attacks without taking any damage. This kind of leadership and battlefield control wasn't something an ordinary player could achieve. If it weren't for Wuji's disgusting personality, Blood Red War Flag would have suspected that Wuji was an officer in the army in real life. As for Wang Yu, no one dared to doubt his strength anymore. He was able to single-handedly suppress the boss to the point where it didn't even have a chance to fight back. There wasn't a second person like him in the entire game world. If it was an ordinary person, they probably wouldn't even think of doing such a thing. However, the truth was right in front of them. Wang Yu is so awesome, and he was so awesome that no one could do anything about it. If the two of them were put together, the chemical reaction would not be as simple as 1 plus 1. Moreover, there were many people like them in Chuanjin. Originally, the people from Blood Alliance were unhappy that they had been suppressed by Chuanjin in Yuhuichen. After seeing the strength of the two, the people from Blood Alliance no longer felt humiliated. Just as Blood Red War Flag had said, losing to these people was not embarrassing. Seeing that everyone was so well-behaved, Wuji could not refuse. He walked forward with a smile and started searching the Viper Warrior's body. Love Go Little Say, Netka Hurricane Snake Spear, Cavalry Lance, Silver Attack, 24-72 mana, 14-56 plus 7 Vitality, plus 11 Strength, 2 Agility Sweeping Strike. Active skill. Swings the lance and sends out a 650-yard attack, dealing AoE damage equal to the user's Strength x3. Consumes 50 MP, cooldown 80 seconds. Snake Kiss. Passive skill, 30% chance of ignoring defense. Required class. Punisher required level. 20 Punisher was the title of a punishment knight at level 20. This class had the widest attack range out of all the melee classes. It also had powerful skills such as charge and stab, as well as aura skills that added attack. It was very strong in a 1v1. The weakness was that its attack speed was slightly slow. Although it was strong in a 1v1, warriors could use Whirlwind Slash. Thieves relied on burst attacks and had many skills. On the other hand, the Punisher only had charge and stab. In a group fight, other than the aura, it had no other use. This Hurricane Snake Spear had a sweeping strike skill, which made up for the Punisher's weak AoE attack. Snake Kiss could ignore defense, so it was comparable to gold equipment. There was only one paladin in the team, and there were no punishment paladins in Chuanjin. Wuji reluctantly threw the spear to Blood Red War Flag. Next, Wuji looted a skill book. Triple Strike, rare skill. Uses great strength to unleash 3 consecutive strikes. Class requirement, Punisher, Weapon Master. This skill had high attack power and could move 3 times. It was a very strong skill. Blood Red War Flag had already obtained a weapon, so naturally, it couldn't get a skill. It said bitterly, why didn't you get a skill first? Wuji glanced at Blood Red War Flag and coldly said, you're the only one who can use the Hurricane Snake Spear, so it definitely won't fall into the hands of others. If the first person to use a skill, doesn't that mean you'll get 2? Guild Master, you're so shameless. Everyone criticized Blood Red War Flag. Blood Red War Flag looked aggrieved. Damn, I really didn't think of it that way. The last item was a special accessory, a nose ring. The system was really amusing. It even came up with something as non-mainstream as a nose ring. It really made everyone's jaws drop. However, the attributes of this nose ring were really good. Nether Snake Contract, Silver, Physical Defense, 12-12 Magic Resist, 12-12 Nether Snake's Firm, Active Skill, Double Attack and Defense for 30 seconds. Cooldown, 120 seconds. Nether Snake Voice. Passive skill, aggro plus 10 required class, general level requirement. 1 increased attack and defense, aggro. This thing was practically tailor-made for tanks. Since it was a universal item and a special accessory, no one would complain about their high attributes. Therefore, everyone revealed a greedy look. Wuji didn't even look at them. He directly threw it into his pocket. F***CK. What do you mean? Everyone said angrily. Ask your boss. When we came in, we said that we have limited equipment choices. Wuji said calmly. Everyone looked at Blood Red War Flag. Blood Red War Flag said helplessly. That is indeed the case. Hearing Blood Red War Flag's words, the Blood Alliance members wanted to spit out blood. How could such an important power be given away? Wasn't this humiliating? Although they were depressed, after distributing the equipment, everyone continued to walk forward. Yesterday, when Blood Alliance was in Hurricane Cave, they were wiped out when they got to the Viper Warrior. Therefore, they didn't know what happened later on. Hurricane Cave seemed to be a snake hole. They walked for a long time, and the scenery around them didn't change at all. After walking for close to 5 minutes, Wuji was the first to notice that something was wrong. He asked curiously, "Did you guys notice that we haven't met any monsters in a long time?" With Wuji's reminder, everyone also noticed that something was wrong. Most of the instance dungeons in the game had a single scene, so they would definitely not be too big. Hurricane Cave was just a low-level dungeon. 5 minutes was enough to cover more than half of the distance. How was it possible that they had not encountered any monsters after so long? Chapter 227. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Talk.net, providing you with exciting novels to read. Don't tell me we didn't move at all, Wuji said after thinking about it. How is that possible? Blood Red War Flag said, "There's only one path in this cave. Are we supposed to go around in circles?" That's hard to say. Haven't you heard of ghosts hitting the wall? Wuji rubbed his chin and mumbled, "If only Brother Chun was here." Chun Xiang was a warlock and often dealt with ghosts and demons. He would definitely be able to find the reason. The Blood Alliance members were speechless. Ghosts hitting the wall. This was too ridiculous. Speaking of which, are there really ghosts in this world? Blood Red Knight asked carefully. Wuji asked back, "There shouldn't be ghosts in real life, but can you guarantee that there are no ghosts in the game?" Idiot. Ugh. Blood Red Knight was speechless and regretted it. He knew that Wuji's attitude was bad, but he still asked, "If it really is ghosts hitting the wall, what should we do?" Blood Red War Flag asked Wuji. Wuji was the leader of the team. Wuji said, "Touch the wall." In traditional online games, there would always be a map that was similar to a maze. Without an item to solve the maze, the most basic method was to touch the wall. This was because no matter how winding the maze was, it was just a straight line. As long as you touched the wall, you would always be able to reach the end. This so-called ghosts hitting the wall was just another type of maze. Everyone was in the same place and had no reference. Sticking to the wall was definitely the best method. Everyone heard this and quickly stuck to the wall on the right. Then, with the tank in front and the damage dealers in the back, they carefully moved along the wall. After walking for about 2 to 3 minutes, they finally met a monster. Flying Snake, LV-35, Elite, HP, 50,000 MP, 20,000 skills, fly, dive, poison attack. These monsters floated at the top of the cave. After seeing everyone, they panicked and flew down from midair, starting to spit poison at them. The flying snake was not big, and the cave was dark. No one could dodge it. Wang Yu was still fine. He was nimble, able to sense the flying snake's auras and skillfully dodge them. The others were miserable. After a round of venom attacks, they were green from head to toe. In order to clear this dungeon, the Blood Alliance players had brought many antidotes. However, what made them depressed was that the snake venom was too high level. Normal antidotes would require 3 to 5 bottles to cure it. Just as the poison in everyone's bodies was neutralized, the flying snakes swooped down once more, and everyone was poisoned once more. Everyone began the second round of detoxification in a flurry. Antidotes weren't cheap, and normally they wouldn't be able to use them. Even when they were clearing the Hurricane Cave, they would only bring 8 to 10 bottles. In the end, after 2 rounds, Blood Alliance was out of money. The antidote was gone, but the monster was still there. Everyone started to panic. Only Wuji and Wang Yu calmly stood where they were and looked up at the sky. Wang Yu didn't need antidotes, but Wuji had prepared plenty of antidotes when he came. "Boss Wuji, give me a few bottles of antidote." Blood Red War Flag paid personally, so they naturally knew that Wuji had quite a few. Wuji said, 10 silver per bottle. F*CK. And you still want money. Blood Red War Flag was depressed. Does the shop not want money from me when I buy the antidote? Wuji asked. This is the money I paid for you. Blood Red War Flag said with a dark expression. Wuji shrugged. I know, but our agreement didn't say that I can give the supplies to you for free. F*CK. Blood Red War Flag was so depressed that they wanted to bang their heads against the wall. Don't be like that. Didn't you find those 3 studios to buy antidotes? You can just think of me as them. Wuji said with a smile. But this is too expensive. Blood Red War Flag said. The antidote in the shop was 5 silver per bottle, but here it was double. This guy was really black-hearted. Wuji said. Do you know the cost of transportation? Buying a Durex on Taobao costs $10, but they still charge you $20 for transportation. You're ruthless. I'll give you 5 gold coins. Give me all the antidotes. While the two were talking, the flying snakes attacked again. Everyone was poisoned again. As they said this, Blood Red War Flag gave Wuji 5 gold coins. Wuji gave all the antidotes. He had a Blood Red War Flag. He got the antidote. The Blood Alliance members felt much more at ease. Blood Red War Flag thought hatefully, damn, you gave me all the antidotes. When you get poisoned, I'll make you cry. At this moment, the flying snakes dive for the 4th time. Just as the Blood Alliance members laughed evilly and wanted to see Wuji make a fool of himself, Wuji took out a torch. The flying snakes stopped around Wuji and didn't dare to fly forward. Damn! Blood Red War Flag was in tears. It seemed like they were tricked again. If you knew the flying snakes were afraid of fire, why didn't you take out the torch earlier? I just found out. Wuji pointed at the torch on the wall and said, I saw the flying snakes go around there, so I knew they were afraid of fire. You knew the flying snake's weakness, then why did you sell the antidote to me? Blood Red War Flag said angrily. I haven't even said anything yet, and you want to buy it from me. I thought you liked it. I don't discriminate against other people's special quirks. Wuji said with a smile. F***CK. Blood Red War Flag swallowed a mouthful of blood back into its stomach. Torch, do you want it? Wuji took out another bundle of torches. Yes. Blood Red War Flag was helpless. They didn't have the habit of bringing torches. 10 silver coin. Blood Red War Flag silently took out money and bought 13 torches. Wanyu also took one from Wuji. With a torch in everyone's hands, the flying snakes didn't dare to fly down anymore. Blood Red War Flag said excitedly, If that's the case, let's go through. Don't you know that the aggro of the dungeon monsters is all over the dungeon? Wuji rolled his eyes at Blood Red War Flag and said, Can you still hold a torch in one hand and hit the monsters with the other? Wind Whisper. Shoot them down. Blood Red War Flag waved its hand and said to Blood Wind Whisper. Bloody Wind Whisperer said expressionlessly, Boss, can't you be more realistic? Let's not talk about their small size and low hit rate. They're all elite monsters with 50,000 HP each. I'm the only one in our party who can hit them. How long will it take? What the hell do we do? We can't just stand here and watch them, right? We should have brought a few more archers. Blood Red War Flag scratched its head. The archer was a continuous damage output type. The monsters here had high attack and low defense, so the damage output of the team was a burst type. Bringing an archer was to attract the monsters. Chapter 228. Genius 1 second. Remember if you want to go. Talk.net, providing you with exciting novels to read. That's easy. Just when everyone was at a loss, Wang Yu suddenly pointed at the sky and asked Wuji, say, if we throw a torch up there, will they come down? Wuji said, they will, but there won't be enough torches. The torch was a one-time use item. After igniting it, it could be held in one's hand or thrown into a bag. However, it didn't matter if you burned it or not. As long as you threw it out of your hand, the system would assume that it had been used. Then you could no longer pick it up and could only wait for it to burn itself out. Torches were items that were rarely used. Wuji saw the word cave in the Hurricane Cave and bought some. His main goal was to make Blood Red War Flag bleed a little. In a situation where there weren't enough items, throwing a torch to scare the flying snakes down was not a good idea. It's okay. It's enough. Wang Yu smiled. Holding the torch in one hand, he leaped onto the wall and flew up. When he was in midair, Wang Yu waved his right hand, and the torch flew out of his hand. It just happened to be stuck in the gap between two rocks above him. With the torch on the top of the cave, the flying snakes did not dare to stay above and flew down in fear. The tanks used the torch to protect the damage dealers. The mages and archers took turns to attack. Wang Yu also occasionally threw out a telekinesis wave. Soon, the dozen flying snakes were swept away. After the flying snakes were killed, everyone was about to let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a red and yellow snake fell from the top of the cave. The snake was not as big as the snakes they encountered before. It was only half a meter long, and its body exuded a misty aura. It gave off a very mysterious feeling. System notification. You have activated the dungeon quest, Illusion of Mystery. It's the boss. When everyone saw the system notification, they immediately reacted. So, this little thing was actually the boss. This was really embarrassing for the boss. Illusionary Snake, LV35, Silver, Elite, Rare, HP, 5000 MP. Skills, Illusion Array, Illusion Riddle. Status, Illusion 100% a boss with 5000 HP. Everyone was delighted. A boss only had so little HP. It couldn't even compare to a small monster. This was practically a free point. Wind Whisper beat him up. Blood Red War Flag did not wait for Wuji to speak and immediately gave Blood Whisper an order. Wuji frowned and said, "Don't hit him. Ever since Ghost Hits the Wall died, Wuji felt that something was wrong." Wuji had participated in the closed beta before. During the closed beta, there were also players who had attempted the Hurricane Cave. However, due to the limited time available, most of the players had only attempted the normal dungeons. They had rarely attempted the elite dungeons. It was common knowledge that the higher the difficulty of the dungeon, the more hidden bosses there would be. For example, this illusionary snake and the flying snake from before were things that Wuji had never heard of before. Since this boss was set here, it definitely had a reason for its existence. It was definitely not as simple as a monster with 5000 HP. Love Go Small say Nekawuji's order was still a step too late. Blood Whisper's accurate shot hit the illusionary snake's body. The illusionary snake's body shook slightly and turned into Blood Whisper's appearance. Then, an arrow flew out, and Blood Whisper turned into a white light on the spot. Damn, what a shameless boss. Everyone was shocked by this boss. Damn, he would turn into whoever attacked him. Then, the person who attacked him would receive full damage from him. Archer's HP was already very low. Blood Whisper was also a core expert of Blood Alliance. Naturally, his equipment was of the highest quality. In this attack, in order to show off, he specifically used the strongest level 20 marksman skill, Accurate Shot. As a result, he instantly killed himself. After Blood Whisper died, the boss illusionary snake suddenly spoke. Despicable invaders, although you have slaughtered my people, I prefer peace. Now, I will give you a chance. As long as you answer my question correctly, you can pass. Can we trust him? Blood Red War Flag came over and asked Wuji. They had fought elite bosses before and knew that these kinds of bosses like to trick people. This was especially true for the boss in front of them. What can we do if we don't trust him? Will we be able to cross it? Wuji asked. Blood Red War Flag looked at Wang Yu and said, "Not even yoga." Nonsense. You have seen this boss. If we were to really fight, Old Cow would definitely die the quickest. TCH. Wang Yu snorted to express his disdain. What question? Just say it. Wuji ignored Wang Yu's dissatisfaction and said to Illusionary Snake. Illusionary Snake cleared his throat. What thing? For legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon. Human. Before Illusionary Snake could finish speaking, Wuji said impatiently, "Do you Western fantasy bosses have any new ideas? You have the nerve to bring out such old riddles? Oh, you even learned to answer first." Illusionary Snake humorously said a classic line from Teacher Zhao. Then he asked, "Because of light, I have lost light. If someone bestows light upon me, I will help his legs." Wuji helplessly raised the torch in his hand and said, "Let's just use the torch. Can't you say something more difficult?" Illusionary Snake was speechless for a moment and said, "The F*King designer only gave me these riddles. What can I do? This thing has quite a temper." It actually directly scolded the designer. As expected of a god's curse. If it was me, Old Cow, I would also curse him. Next, illusionary snake continuously threw out a few riddles without exception. They were all riddles that had been solved by people hundreds of years ago. As the riddles continued, everyone gradually felt an aura of danger. This aura of danger was real. Even if everyone did not have a golden finger like Wang Yu, they could still feel the changes in illusionary snake. Originally, it was only a small snake that was half a meter long. Now, it had actually become a large snake that was more than 2 meters long. As Wuji continued to guess the riddles, its body continued to grow. Illusionary snake? LV? Silver boss, elite, rare, HP. 5000 MP. Skills, illusion riddle. Status, illusion 700%. Wuji, stop guessing. You've been tricked by a beast. Wang Yu hurriedly pulled Wuji and said. Wuji, who was currently showing off his knowledge to illusionary snake, was pulled back by Wang Yu. He also reacted, F***CK. Did this guy eat hormones? You fed him with your rich knowledge. Blood red, war flag mocked. Wuji's face darkened and turned red. He could not help but say angrily, Mother of ***, this beast actually dared to trick me. Wuji had dominated the game for so many years. He had always been the one setting traps for others. Who knew that he would meet a humble and studious NPC today? He showed off for a moment and fell into a trap. He had braved through great storms and waves, but he actually failed under the hands of an NPC. If news of this were spread, he would definitely be laughed to death by those animals in Xuanzhen. Chapter 229. The instance dungeons and rebirth were meticulously designed by the game designers. These guys had always adhered to the principle of not paying with their lives. They added all kinds of IQ traps into the game, making the instance dungeons not a level that could be solved with just brute force alone. The illusionary snake in the Hurricane Cave was one of the most representative traps. The attributes of the illusionary snake were not high compared to the other bosses, but it had a particularly shameless skill, which was transmogrification. As long as it was attacked, the illusionary snake would transform into the appearance of the attacker and counterattack, ensuring that it was invincible. Then, he took the opportunity to ask the players questions. In the system settings, these questions were the seals that God had placed on him. As long as the player answered a question correctly, the illusionary snake seal would be removed by 1 layer. There was a total of 10 questions and 10 layers of seal. Every time a layer of seal was removed, the illusionary snake's attack attribute would double. Once all 10 layers of seal were removed, the illusionary snake will be able to take the initiative to attack. At that time, players would be able to exit the instance dungeon. This was because the illusionary snake, with all 10 layers of seal removed, was akin to a divine beast. It could easily kill any player. Actually, the way to deal with this guy was very simple, and that was to ignore his questions. As long as he could not answer his questions after 1 minute, the illusionary snake's strength would drop. After the player refused to answer 5 questions, the illusionary snake would leave on its own. At the same time, it would cast a debuff of -10 intelligence on the player. Of course, when players encountered such a problematic boss, they would definitely answer without hesitation. No one would have thought that the designer would set up such a wretched trap. Even Wuji, who had always set traps, had been tricked by the designer. This guy had answered 7 questions in one go, and the illusionary snake's strength had increased by 7 times. At this moment, even if Wuji knew the method to defeat the boss, it would probably be useless because there were only 3 questions left. Classes with high attack power, retreat. Tanks, smash him. I don't believe it. Wuji said, flustered and exasperated. Tank classes had always had low attack, but high defense. Even if the illusionary snakes transformed into their appearances and fought back, they should still be able to tank. After receiving Wuji's command, the bird of paradise charged over and smashed its shield bash onto the illusionary snake's head. The illusionary snake's figure flickered and transformed into the bird of paradise's appearance. Using the same method, it attacked the bird of paradise. 1798, an astonishing number floated above the bird of paradise's head, giving the bird of paradise a huge fright. The illusionary snake's shield bash had actually reduced a shield warrior's HP to 0. The cleric scrambled to restore the bird of paradise's HP. Wuji frowned and said, F***CK, that's 7 times the damage. Damn it, this is not going to be easy. If even a shield warrior, who had light hands, couldn't take it, how could anyone here have lower attack power than a shield warrior? Let me try. Wang Yu, who had been watching from the back, suddenly stood up. You? Forget it, go to the back and rest. Wuji said helplessly, who didn't know that Wang Yu's attacks could take a life the moment he made a move. Within the entire team, there probably wasn't anyone with a higher attack power than him. If he were to fight against an illusionary snake, a single punch from him would probably cause the illusionary snake to die. It doesn't matter. Let me try. I think I can dodge his attack. Wang Yu said lightly. He dodged the attack. That's right. Wang Yu nodded. In system mode, the players' attacks were adjusted by the system. All of their skills followed the rules, so there were more flaws in their fighting style. For example, when a shield warrior used a shield strike, there would be a stun time. Illusionary Snake took advantage of this stun time to launch a counterattack. It was truly difficult for normal players to dodge. In manual mode, although there was also a stun time, this stun time could be adjusted according to the player's control. The higher the player's control, the shorter the stun time would be. For a martial arts expert like Wang Yu, the combination of skills was flawless, so the stun time would be reduced to the minimum. Then go and try. If you really can't do it, I'll resurrect you. Wuji said. When the Blood Alliance members heard this, they all glared at Wuji. Meow. He clearly had a resurrection skill, but he actually didn't let Blood Wind Whisper use it. Wang Yu smiled and walked in front of Illusionary Snake. Illusionary Snake had killed one person and injured another, so it seemed to be in a good mood. It grinned and asked, "Are you here to answer a question?" Without saying anything, Wang Yu raised his fist and smashed it. Oh! Illusionary Snake's body shook and transformed into Wang Yu's appearance. It waved its fist and punched back. Wang Yu didn't panic. He moved his body to the side and dodged Illusionary Snake's attack. Illusionary Snake's attack didn't hit, so it followed suit and moved to the side. It can really be dodged. There's no use dodging. Illusionary Snake didn't even lose a single bit of health, the Blood Alliance members said in a depressed tone. Wuji was also furious. This thing was just too shameless. His attacks didn't have any effect at all. Was he really going to fail this dungeon? At this moment, Wang Yu suddenly took off all the equipment on his body, leaving only his system underwear. Everyone was shocked. Is old cow going to run around naked? Isn't it just a punch that didn't deal any damage? It's not that bad, right? His temper is just too bad. Just as everyone was puzzled, Wang Yu punched out again. What's the use of Boss Cow hitting him? Why won't he lose any health? Seeing this, everyone asked Wuji in confusion. I'm not sure either. Could it be that taking off his clothes would be more threatening? Just his upper body is fine. Why would he take off his pants? Wuji was also confused. He really couldn't understand what Wang Yu was trying to do. Just as everyone was still guessing Wang Yu's identity, the next scene caused everyone's eyes to pop out of their sockets. Wang Yu did the same thing as before. He dodged Illusionary Snake's attack and then punched his own head. That's right, he punched his own head. What made everyone even more dumbfounded was that Illusionary Snake followed suit and punched his own head with a palm. 5627, 8 damage number floated above Illusionary Snake's head. Illusionary Snake's health bar emptied and fell to the ground. F***CK me. That's possible? After a while, everyone recovered from their shock. Even Wuji hit his own head and said, F***CK me, old cow. I really can't understand you anymore. Who would have thought that a boss in manual mode could be killed by you? How did you think of such a move? Hee hee. Wang Yu laughed mischievously and wore his equipment again. Then he said to Wuji, when I hit him just now, I saw that he was even imitating my ineffective actions. I guess that when this guy transforms into my appearance, the imitation is forced, and then you punch yourself? Wuji asked. Yeah. Aren't you afraid of killing yourself? Wuji said in disdain. Rebirth was a new technology game. In order to prevent players from getting stuck in one place and not being able to get out, there was a suicide mode and PK mode where players could attack themselves. That's why I took off all my equipment. Wang Yu laughed. Chapter 230. In the game, the growth attributes of Grandmasters of Combat were very average. Generally speaking, they were considered to be agility damage dealers. They walked the path of combo attacks. Therefore, the attack attributes of Grandmasters of Combat were only slightly higher than those of Shield Bearers and Guardian Knights among the melee classes. The reason why Wang Yu's attack was so high, other than the bonus from manual mode, was because of his exquisite equipment. Although martial artists had higher stats, Wang Yu also added intelligence in addition to strength and agility. Therefore, Wang Yu's stats were similar to a normal Grandmaster of Combat after removing his equipment. A level 20 Grandmaster of Combat's HP was around 900 points. After Wang Yu took off all her equipment, a single punch from her dealt over 800 damage to him. On the other hand, Illusionary Snake had 7 times the damage, so a single punch could instantly kill him. Poor boss, it probably never thought that it would die in such a way. The Blood Alliance members exclaimed, so the game could be played like this. One eye-opener, after everyone saved their progress, they started looting the boss. This time, Blood Red War Flag looted the boss because Wuji thought that the snake was too ugly and did not want to loot it. Therefore, he gave the chance to Blood Red War Flag. Wang Yu thought that it was because Wuji had been tricked by the snake before and felt conflicted. As the saying went, since ancient times, the luck of a spearman was E, and this was true. The Blood Red War Flag's luck was truly unscrupulous. They had touched it twice in a row, and it was all silver trash. On the third try, it was even bronze while exploring the abyss, killing a silver elite boss and looting a bronze boss. This kind of outrageous luck was enough to make one's hair stand up. Everyone, including Wang Yu, criticized Blood Red War Flag's inhumanity. I can loot it one more time. If not, then forget it. After being criticized, Blood Red War Flag's face was full of despair. At this time, even he did not believe himself. He was afraid that he would loot another piece of white equipment. That would be so embarrassing. Everyone gritted their teeth. Loot it. This might be the last time you loot equipment in your life. Blood Red War Flag's face was bitter. He looted the Illusionary Snake again. This time it was not equipment, but a round white object. What is this? Everyone asked curiously. I don't know. There's no explanation. Blood Red War Flag sounded like it was about to cry. At least the first few items had stats, but this one didn't even say that Mingdu didn't have it. His illustrious reputation was ruined in a single day. Let me have a look. Wuji stretched out his hand. Here. Blood Red War Flag handed the orb to Wuji. Wuji held the ball and examined it for a long time before saying, I think this thing is round. Nonsense. Everyone was furious. Who couldn't tell? Think about it. Snakes are oviparous animals. This white round thing was found from its body. Could it be a pet egg? Wuji said slowly. Pet egg. Everyone was stunned. Is there a pet system in Rebirth? There is no introduction on the official website. Wuji shook his head and said, but it doesn't say that there is no such thing. Then how do you hatch this thing? Don't tell me you stuff in your pants to hatch it. Haha, that's too funny. Wang Yu pointed at Wuji and laughed. Blood Red War Flag was speechless for a moment. Then it pretended to understand and said, according to the novel, it should be a blood contract. Wuji looked at Blood Red War Flag in disdain and said, nonsense. This is an online game for all. It won't be so bloody. Even the health loss is a numerical representation. How do you drip blood? I think it's better to put it in your pants. Wang Yu stubbornly insisted on his point of view. Everyone simply ignored him. Wuji held the ball and said, if it's really a pet egg, it needs temperature to hatch. Snakes are cold-blooded animals. The incubation temperature is about 30 degrees. Wang Yu laughed and said, haha, I told you to put it in. Can you shut up? Wuji was furious and interrupted Wang Yu. Then, He raised the torch to roast the white ball. Gotcha! When the ball was still far away from the torch, it suddenly split open, and then a pink snake crawled out of it. Illusionary snake, LV, 1, rare, HP, 50 MP, 200 skill, illusion boundary, active. Uses mana to set up a boundary. Can trap enemy targets within 5 levels. Consumes 40 MP per second. Owner, Wuji Dam, it really is a pet egg. When Blood Red War Flag saw this, they were filled with regret. This was their first pet in the game. How could they give it to someone else? Seeing this little snake, Wuji was also very surprised. Although its attributes were a bit trash, Wuji had seen the illusion boundary skill. It was equivalent to a crowd control skill. It was very useful. However, this shape was a bit worrying. The pink snake had a big head and a small body. It looked very cartoonish and cute at first glance. In the outside world, Wuji was a guy with an unclear sexual orientation. If he brought a pink guy out, people would probably say that Wuji was a P*SSY on the forum the next morning. Old Cow had no idea what a P*SS was. It was just hearsay, pure face. Daddy, just as Wuji was still thinking about the pet's appearance, the first sentence from the little snake's mouth made everyone spit out a mouthful of blood. Daddy? What the F***CK? What kind of bad taste does the designer have? Wuji's head was even more swollen. The little snake was still minding its own business and circling around Wuji. It kept calling out, Daddy, Daddy. Everyone laughed until their stomachs hurt. Laugh your ass. I'll kill whoever laughs later. Wuji glared at everyone. Who laughed? I didn't laugh. Everyone stood up to show their innocence, but the twisted expressions on their faces completely betrayed them. Wuji gritted his teeth and explained, I'm sure that this little thing only knows how to say this sentence. Everyone nodded and made sounds of They were afraid that they would accidentally laugh. All right, Wuji sighed, grabbed the small snake, and stuffed it into his bag. He swore to himself that, unless it was absolutely necessary, he would never let this snake out in front of an outsider in this lifetime. In the end, Wuji also warned Wang Yu. Don't tell anyone else in Chuanjin, understand? I know. Wang Yu nodded repeatedly. Chuanjin was a group of bad friends. When they had nothing to do, they would make fun of each other. If they knew, they would use this matter to humiliate Wuji every day. All right, let's continue. Wuji glanced at the crowd and said in a displeased tone, Okay. Chapter 231. After the illusionary snake was eliminated, the path in the Hurricane Cave became much clearer. After passing through the illusionary snake's area, the group came to a fork in the road. Left or right? Blood Red War Flag asked Wuji. There was no mini-map in this type of cave dungeon. It was impossible to know which path led to the final boss. It's a tradition in online games. Turn right at the fork. Wuji said calmly. Turning right at the fork was the same as walking through a maze. It was an old rule in online games. The group did not refute and chose the right fork. Not long after, the group encountered a monster. Hidden Snake, LV35. Elite, HP, 20,000 MP, 1,000 skills. Stealth, Poison Fang ambush. These snakes were gray and blended in with the dark environment. If one did not observe carefully, it would be hard to notice them. The monsters in front would let out hissing sounds. The hidden snake was indeed silent when it moved. These hidden snakes were similar to the golden kite and silver kite from before. They were scattered and had chain aggro, so they could only fight one wave. With the light of the torch, the group was outside the aggro range of the hidden snakes. After seeing the distribution and attributes of these monsters, their hearts almost jumped out. Stealth, as the name suggested, was a stealth skill. In the early stages without anti-stealth equipment, all monsters with stealth skills were the most hated by players. Poison Fang ambush was an ambush skill with poison attributes. This was a LV35 elite monster. If they were ambushed, even if they did not die, they would lose half their HP. Moreover, This scene did not have the terrain of the wall. If they used the same inverted 5 formation as before, even if they could withstand it, they would not be able to do anything to these monsters with stealth skills. It seemed like the Abyss dungeon was not that easy to clear. Don't panic. Seeing that everyone was panicking, Wuji quickly said, "Everyone retreat. Retreat to the 5 o'clock direction." Hearing this, everyone followed Wuji and retreated to a narrower area. Wuji pointed to 2 rocks at the side and said, "2 shield bearers, stand here." Bird of Paradise and Blood Red Wall walked to the position that Wuji pointed to. The Bird of Paradise measured the distance and said, "Even so, we can't stop it." The hurricane cave was more than 9 meters wide. The 2 shield bearers were standing between 2 large rocks with their shields, but they were only able to cover a distance of about 5 meters. There was still a gap of 4 meters between them. Wuji laughed and said, "What's there to block? Let's release them. Let them pass." Everyone was puzzled. What's the difference between that and a frontal attack? Wuji said the gap is too big. This way, we can surround them and they won't be able to escape. Monsters that knew stealth were the same as thieves. They had decent explosive power, but their stamina and endurance were rather poor. If they couldn't kill their target in one hit, they would have to immediately run far away and find another opportunity. The biggest problem everyone was facing now was how to effectively trap these monsters. Without a warlock in the party, it would be more difficult to control the group. Not to mention that distortion had a prerequisite skill. Ordinary warlocks might not be able to control these hidden snakes. Therefore, Wuji wanted to use a formation to lead these monsters into an encirclement and then annihilate them in one fell swoop. Are you kidding? 14 people standing in a row is only 8 to 9 meters. If they can't even block the path, how are we going to surround them? Blood Red War Flag asked. Even though Blood Red War Flag was usually stupid, they also knew that if they wanted to surround someone, they had to at least have enough people. Wuji pointed behind the 2 shield bearers and said, "To deal with these low IQ monsters, as long as they don't lose their aggro, we can arrange the formation like this." As he spoke, Wuji used his finger to make a V shape. Formation again. Hearing Wuji say the word formation, the expressions of the Blood Red Alliance members immediately became serious, and their eyes revealed a desire to know. Those who played online games often knew that whether it was in dungeons or guild battles, those who fought randomly were just a motley crew. When the real big guilds fought in groups, they all had special positions, under the same battle strength. If one cleverly arranged their positions, they could directly decide the outcome of a battle. However, normal players were a bunch of gaming geeks after all, and they could only come into contact with positions. As for formations, that was something even more profound. For people from big guilds like Blood Red Alliance, it was basically a strategic weapon. Therefore, when they heard Wuji talk about formations, everyone pricked up their ears. Formations were something used in ancient times. In this era, the sky was filled with planes and cannons. People nowadays even treated Kung Fu as a legend. Naturally, not many people knew about formations from the Cold Weapon era. Although most online games were set in the Cold Weapon era, players didn't even have enough time to play the game. So who would specially study such things? The people from Xuanzhen were different from normal players. Xuanzhen only had 6 people at the start. These 6 lawless fellows, every time they played a game, they would be chased by all sorts of people. After being chased for so long, these fellows developed the ability to fight against many. Everyone in the online gaming world knew that the people from Xuanzhen were sinister and cunning, but none of the guilds that went against them were able to defend against them. Only today did the people from Blood Red Alliance find out that just by being sinister and cunning, a group of 6 wasn't enough to fight against so many big guilds. The reason why they were able to succeed was because of the legendary formation. The V-shaped formation was one of the formations of the Xuanzhen sect. The first 2 points were the ambush positions. As long as the enemy was lured into the trap, the ambushers would block the way, and the enemy would be attacked from the back. This was just PvE, and the formation that Wuji designed was not very good. The two tanks at the front could only block the way, not an ambush. Behind the tanks were 4 thieves, and further back were Wang Yu and Blood Red War Flag protecting 3 priests and 2 mages. Everyone followed Wuji's instructions and formed a V formation. Wuji still occupied the last position. Looking down from above, the entire team's position looked like an open pocket. The extra blood-red Shura was dumbfounded and asked Wuji, "Boss Wuji, what should I do?" Wuji pointed at the group of monsters not far away and said, "You go lure the monsters. I'm a warrior. You want me, a melee class, to lure the monsters?" "Boss Wuji, is there some misunderstanding between us?" Blood-red Shura suspected that Wuji was still holding a grudge against him. "What are you talking about? I'm asking you to lure the monsters, not to die. Why don't you stand here and be the healer?" This time, Blood-red Shura wanted to curse, but the words were stuck in his mouth, and he didn't dare to say them out loud. After all, the commander of the instance dungeon was Wuji. With this guy's bad personality, he might let him lure the monsters this time, but next time, he might really send him to die. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.